Welcome one, welcome all. Hey, everybody. Go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know that you're here in the chat, where you're coming from, and if you're wearing a fragrance, what you're smelling like for the day. It is a fine Wednesday. Um, at least here where I am in Oregon, it is just like literally perfect outside. The weather, it's like a beautiful 73 and sunny, just kind of like, how is it this good? But this weekend it'll be 90. It's really kind of weird. So this is the calm before it all comes in. But forget all that. Who's here? I see Cam's in the house. I see Kyler's here. Kyler says this is going to be a great one. You damn right. It's going to be a great one. My Celtics blew it. I always love that name. We're an explorer, all genres. Okay. Yeah. So guys, go ahead and file on in. Leave a shout out. Sarah says she is so ready for the weekend. All right. I'm sure a lot of people are. It is hump day. D and Lee's in the house. All right. John is here. John's wearing Second Soul. I see you. Appreciate that. Hope you're enjoying. So we'll just wait another minute or so. Let some people come on in. As you guys can see, I think the title of this is pretty clear of what exactly is going to happen. I don't know if I've necessarily seen a live stream quite like this. We've done, both Ross and I have actually collaborated with Equality Fragrances doing his Verse Sense series, which is awesome. And that's more of like a head-to-head format. He literally calls it a cipher. This is not really that. This is not a head-to-head. There's no, me versus him versus me, no winners or losers. We're just presenting, what we love. And more than anything, it was just kind of a great way for us to see like a physical representation of what we actually like. Because I would venture that the brand that you like the most is the one you probably have some of the most fragrances from. Not all the time, but I would say it's pretty close. So it was a good little evaluation tool for the both of us too, and you will see that very shortly. We have kind of an absurd number of fragrances to share with you. So without further ado, I'm gonna bring on the man himself, Ross, TLTG Reviews. He is decked out. He is matched from head to toe right now, looking crisp, looking like a gorgeous spring day. And here he is.
That's an introduction right there. What's going on, man?
Hey, dude, how you feeling?
I'm doing well, man. It's a great day. Glad to be on here with you. It's always a good time when we can get together. And
It is.
large amount of fragrances, I think, is us understating what we actually have going on here. If we were to throw the number at them on the total, they might be a little surprised.
Yes. So I think that let's save the number for the end, because I think people can be really influenced by numbers, and if we give them to them, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I'm not watching this. I'm getting out of here. I can't stay around for this whole thing."
They know they're getting at least an hour.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it'll be cool to maybe do the total tally at the very end.
Yeah.
Or maybe we could take a guess, or, take a poll and see who was counting, whatever it may be. We'll see about it. But
I think I'll say how many fragrances are from the house when I'm discussing the specific house, and whoever wants to tally along,
For sure. Yeah, I think that's a given. I'll be doing that as well. Okay, so we got 75 folks in the chat.
Good to see everyone. Glad you're all here.
See you all here. Thanks for hanging with us. Sean Conley's here. Got that Polaris from Issey Miyake. Still haven't tried that one. Okay.
There's a lot of Issey stuff I still want to get my nose on. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, they are one of those houses that honestly, I feel like they should be on this list for me. Like, I'm not even anywhere close to having most, fragrances from them in my collection. I have like a couple, honestly, and it's kind of sad because they got some good stuff.
I only have maybe a little over a handful myself.
Okay, yeah,
like 6 or 7, and not any of the more recent releases in the last couple of years, which seem to have gotten, a lot of them have gotten rave reviews. One specifically that you have, is it Ekans Encens? How do you say it?
Or Encens.
Or Encens. That one specifically. I've heard you speak highly of it. I think that's one I would enjoy as well.
I think so, yeah, because you're an incense fan, right?
Yes, very much.
Okay.
Very
Yeah.
much.
So unfortunately, it is discontinued. I managed to scoop up a bottle from FragBuy like last year, maybe 2 years
Yeah.
ago at this point, just totally randomly. I'm like, oh, people are saying nice things on Fragrantica. Let me try it. And as I've said, it's like I sprayed it. I'm like, eh,
Well, I
put
mean,
it
the whole
down. And
reason I
yeah.
bought Kenzo Ohm EDP, and there's a certain gentleman that just has nice things to say about it. So I was like, let me just buy it. I
Yeah. I
haven't
still
opened it
need.
yet.
Oh, man. You still haven't sprayed that.
Well,
Okay.
I have the EDT lined up to wear and start. I want to wear the EDT first. Then I'm gonna wear
Yes.
the EDP, and then I think I'll discuss the two of them together in a video. So I want to spend
For
time with
sure.
the lower concentration first.
That's smart. Yeah. I've had a lot of people asking me about the EDT and I have not smelled it. So I'll be awaiting your review.
It's different. I have to say the
Okay.
Kenzo fragrances are a little different.
As well
Not
as the
bad different either.
EDT.
It's very nice.
Yes, agree. Mr. Veteran Vlogs, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Well, let me give the people a rundown. If you're
Mhm.
not exactly sure what's going to happen here, Ross and I have both selected 3 designer brands from our collection. All right. Now, as per the guidelines I set up, it made it a little bit restrictive because we're not just picking the 3 favorite brands we would say are our favorite designer brands. We're picking the 3 that we have the most fragrances from.
Yep.
And again, that may or may not be representative of how we feel about the brands. I'd say to some degree, we probably like these brands because we have a lot of bottles. But there's some that, I was surprised when I did some toweling. There was a couple brands I was sure were going to be on my list, and they're not because I have more from some others.
Well, when it
Was it
comes
kind
down
of
to
the
these
same for
designer
you?
brands, you get an idea of what lines we like.
Exactly.
Because it's multiple. Like, even though I have a bunch from this house, it's only 2 fragrance lines. Or a bunch from this house, it's only 2 fragrance lines. But it's a bunch of
Yes.
fragrances.
Yes.
So
For
it's more
sure.
about the DNA of the scent profile, I think, more so than the house specifically, as far as what I have here, anyways.
Sure. Sure. No, that's totally valid. I get that. Thank you so much for the super chat. Glad you could catch it live too. I see you in the comments sometimes after the fact saying, "Oh, I missed it." So happy you're here. Okay, so yeah, we have our 3 brands each. We'll go kind of back and forth. What I'm thinking, uh, I think it might be a little too much for each of us to present one whole house at a time. So I think if I'm curious of whatever house you would choose first to present, how many fragrances do you have in that brand?
I think we should warm up. And I
Okay.
think the best warm up brand would be YSL for me.
Okay.
And with that said, it's literally technically 2 lines.
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 fragrances.
15. Okay.
15.
So that's quite a bit to show at once. So I think, how about this? You do half of those.
Mhm.
Let's say do 8.
Okay.
Do the 8, and then I will do the first half of one of mine, and then I'll
Okay.
give it back to you. You do the last half of it. I'll finish out mine. That'll be our first houses respectively done, and then we'll move on from there. Cool.
If it's okay with you, because one line is only 5, is it okay if I just do that one and then maybe the second half will bounce to the other one? Because you can kind of see where I'm going with the one that's the larger portion.
Okay, sure. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So how about, go ahead and tell us. Obviously, you said it's YSL. What is the collection?
So it's the Y line, obviously.
Okay.
So anybody that
Yes.
watches me, I'm blue fragrance guy. As Justin likes to call them, very basic bro scents.
To varying degrees.
Take them or leave them kind of thing with Justin. But one that it's hard to say if I would take any of them over this. This was my favorite for the longest time, is the original Eau de Toilette. This is the original formulation. The difference between this and the newer formula is that one's a bit sweeter. It has more of a vanilla to it. This is more aldehydic in the top. It's very, very, very bright and full of aldehydes. And even though some equate it to more of a chemical smell, it's actually what I like about it. Out in the air, it's just so bright and inviting and charismatic. It's a very enjoyable fragrance. It's enjoyable as the wearer, and based on comments around me, seems to be enjoyable for those that care to comment.
For sure. So that is the originator of this entire collection. So what would you
Yeah.
say? What do you really like about this collection? What draws you in? What drew you in to continue to get more of them?
The versatility. It comes down
Okay.
to, I would say 8 out of every 10 times I pick a fragrance, I'm usually going to gravitate to something that's hyper versatile in some form or fashion, where it
Hmm.
doesn't matter what I'm wearing or where I'm going or what the temperature is outside. It's probably going to work in the situation. And let's be honest, most of the time we're in climate controlled environments. But in the event you're outdoors and it's hot, this will work. In the event you're
For sure.
outdoors bundled up, this will still work. It
Okay.
has a very inviting freshness across the entirety of the line.
Cool. Cool. All righty. So yeah, so guys, what I'm gonna do here is, now that Ross has kind of told us, how many he has from the line, what he likes about the line, we'll get to the most worn at the end of this group of five here, because I'm curious about that.
Mhm.
So you just described the original. What would you say? Well, what would be the next one? And I'm curious, how would you describe the scent, and when would you typically wear it?
So the varying situations with the eau de toilette is, like I said, the most notable thing about this versus the others is the heavy dose of aldehydes, but it's very bright apple citrus, a little bit of crisp and spicy ginger, and then another big proportion of the DNA is that aromatic sage and the musky ambergris. That's, even though it's not always in the note breakdown for each of the flankers, you smell it as part of the formula the whole way through the line. That's
For sure.
mainly the thing you get from it is apple sage and a musky ambergris is kind of across the board for this
Cool.
range.
Awesome. Awesome. So what's your next pick? Oh, there it is.
With that, the EDP, the most popular one. I mean, we can't talk about YSLY without talking about the EDP, and for some reason it does not. There we go. Now it's focusing. So the rest of the range, I have 60 mLs. The EDT, I have a 100 milliliter bottle, but 60 ml is plenty, especially when you amass such a large amount of fragrances. And a fragrance like this specifically, this is known as the powerhouse of the bunch. You don't need a lot of sprays. Another one, very charismatic scent profile. It draws people in. It can be a little cloying in the summer. It is a year-round fragrance, but for me personally, I gravitate more towards the fresher one in the high heat because this one's a bit sweeter. The apple is very prominent here in the top, and it's a higher oil concentration. But even though it's a higher oil concentration, it doesn't necessarily wear heavier to sit close to the skin. It's actually the strongest one as far as pushing off the skin and
Sure.
reaching out to people. It's. I mean, you have experience with it. You know where
Yeah.
I'm coming from with this.
Yeah.
This is a monster. It's certifiably a beast mode fragrance, as the lingo goes in this community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, that one is really, really strong.
Moving on might be my wife's favorite. This is YSLY Live.
Okay.
So the easiest way I can describe this one is picture the original Y's DNA and mix it with Invictus from Paco Rabanne. Kind of that sweet aquatic tone mixed with that apple, sage, ambergris feel. And I feel that's what you get here. It's almost like a hybrid scent in many ways. Very youthful, very playful, but surprisingly evening appropriate. When it's not a real serious formal occasion, just a casual night out, going have dinner, something like that, going to the movies, it's a great scent for that. That's kind of specifically what I use this particular scent profile for. It doesn't veer from the original too much, but it definitely introduces something new that the other two didn't have.
Would you say it smells a little bit more youthful, playful than the original and the EDP?
Absolutely. Even though those aren't that mature, I mean, there's nothing
Sure.
very matured and refined about anything across this line. One has a little bit more refinement going on, which we'll get to in a minute, but this line as a whole is very good for young men or guys that, like I said, just like something very inviting that's a little on the playful side. This is a little bit more playful than the previous two, though, because like I said, when you introduce something that's very sweet, aquatic, almost bubblegum like, as Invictus is known for, when you add a little bit of that to this scent, it euthanizes it a bit more, I guess you could say. It's more youthful.
Got it. I said
Interesting choice of
euthanize,
word,
but that
right?
works. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it works. We
Yeah.
just rearrange it, and it's a whole new word now. It's all
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Not in the
All right.
traditional sense of the word.
No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah.
What
And
you
then
got
one
next?
that was extremely popular and I believe is discontinued at this point is the Eau Fraiche. This one I
I
would
didn't know
say
it was
is the most
discontinued.
different. Have you tried this one?
I have.
The thing that I enjoy about this one, for being called the Eau Fraiche flanker and the coloration of the bottle, you would think it's bright, airy, fresh, Dior Homme cologne kind of style. But it's actually more of a warm lemon smell. It's very lemon and ginger heavy in the top. Still fresh, but there's a warmth to the freshness. It's a little
Interesting.
bit
Yeah.
more crispy and spicy. And like I said, the ginger more than anything warms up the lemon. It's a lemony type of ginger smell more so than a spicy ginger, the way this comes across, while still maintaining a lot of that ambergris sage DNA. I don't even remember if they're specifically in the note breakdown. I believe the ambergris is, but you smell it within. This one kind of ventures the most away from the group. It's the one that smells the least like the original, at least to me.
Cool. I would agree with that.
Great for the summer.
Yeah. Super high heat, fresh, refreshing. kind of
Daytime,
thing.
casual,
Yeah.
easygoing, nothing serious here. Just
Cool.
good work fragrance in the warm weather too.
Word.
Now, the only one I don't have is the newest one. I have a decant, the Eau de Parfum Intense, which I find to be the most underwhelming of the group. Even though a lot of people love it, I personally think it's not as good as any of the others. For me,
Is that the newest one?
That's the newest one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
good, but it's not great. I feel like literally every other one we've discussed just now is better
Okay.
to me. Now, this being my favorite, this is the Le Parfum. So the thing I enjoy the most about this one, if I could get it to focus, that would just be fantastic, right? There we go.
There it is.
So the thing I like the most about this one is it's the truest to falling in between, as far as the scent profile, falling in between the EDP and the EDT, because you still get a hefty amount of aldehydes that can be found most notably in the eau de toilette. You get some of the enhanced sweetness of the EDP without being as sweet. And it has that richness to wear a bit heavier. So it's got the longevity and it's not quite as in your face. So it's not as bright and airy as the EDT. It's also not as overwhelming as the EDP can be. But it has a strength because of the oil concentration to where it will linger. This is probably the smoothest of the group and the most refined.
Okay.
Not that it's the most refined of scent profiles, but for the profile, this is the one that if I was to take a little bit more seriously than the others, it's definitely the Le Parfum. Hence, I believe that's why it's my favorite. Typically, when it comes to these popular designers, the Parfum flanker is usually my favorite.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I definitely fall in line with that too.
Yeah.
Okay, man. So those are your 5 of the YSL wide line.
Indeed.
I'm trying to think here what makes the most sense. Do you think it would make the most sense for you to tally your top 3 most worn from each of these collections you'll talk about, or from the entire house?
How about from the entire house? I would think.
That's what I was thinking.
Because if we're doing a brief synopsis of each of them, I feel like we'd cut down some time overall by when it comes to most worn. Just
the whole thing.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Cool. Got it. Okay. Love it, man. Yeah, I only have the EDT currently, and I do have the original formulation. And
you
I
have
like
the Eau
it.
de Parfum though, right?
No,
Did
but
you
I
have
have
it at one
sampled
point?
it. I've sampled it several times. I've spent some good time with it. But there was something about it that just didn't work for me. I'm still kind of, I got my samples from Sephora years back when it came out, and I feel like maybe like the plastic decants were messing with the scent. I was getting this
They
weird
do.
plasticky feel.
They
And
do.
I was like,
When
what
it's
is up
not a
with
quality
this?
decant, it will affect the scent profile. I have learned that over the years.
Yeah.
You won't get
Yeah.
a full depiction of what it's really like spraying from the bottle.
Yeah, I still have yet to smell it from the bottle. Okay, so
I'm curious to see where we're going here. Because I know one brand for sure that you're going to have, and I'm not going to say it. We'll just wait till we get there.
Okay. Well, the first brand I'll start with is probably one of the biggest ones, and that's Dior. I didn't realize, I don't have a ton, but I have a good little number of Dior. So I'm going to
Me
do.
too. I could have done them.
Okay. I'm going to do the first half of my Dior collection. So I'll do the same number as you. Let's just start with one of the obvious ones, which is I have, a history with it, and that's Sauvage. All right.
The rebuy.
The rebuy here. The little 30 ml bottle, which I
I've
didn't
never
know was a
seen the
thing.
30 ml before.
I didn't know it was a
You
thing.
showed it the other day. It's the first time I've ever seen that bottle.
Yes. So I didn't know it was a thing until I decided to rebuy this a few weeks ago, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to get it again. I looked on Sephora's website. I'm like, what is this little guy? Oh yeah, let me go ahead and get that. It was like $70, maybe less than that retail. So anyway, this was one of the first fragrances I bought when I started my channel. I reviewed it way back when, blah, blah, blah. And I don't really need to describe it. It's fresh. kind of shower gel-ish. It's clean, it's spicy. There's a sexy feel to it. Super versatile, and it gets a lot of hate and a lot of love all at the same time. So when I would wear this is anytime. Again, super versatile.
It's a lot of hate and a lot of love. I'm Dior Sauvage.
Exactly. So there's that. Let's talk about this guy here. Dior Homme. This is the OG. Dior Homme. This is that 2011 formulation, which is kind of hard to come by. I know they have the original, which I haven't tried. I assume it's basically the same, but maybe not. I'd actually wouldn't be surprised if it's not. Nonetheless, not love hate. I used to hate this when I first smelled it years ago. Couldn't stand it. It was like, smells like makeup bag. How could a guy smell like this? And it only took another year for me to come back around and realize, I see what they're saying. This is kind of a masterpiece. It really is. And frankly, it's weird. You look at this bottle, it doesn't look like I've worn it that much. I don't know what it is. This bottle is just never ending. I've probably worn this fragrance at least a dozen times.
I've got 5.1 ounces of that and Intense, and you'd swear I've barely worn them, but I'm the same way. I adore that DNA. Yeah.
It's like, man, I'm trying to spray them. This bottle just will not empty. It's so crazy. But anyways, if you haven't smelled it, there's a freshness to it with that lavender. There is a waxy powderiness to it with the iris. It's not overly powdery though. I'd say it's more clean lavender than it is powdery iris. And that transitions to like a leathery, chocolatey cacao. So those are like the two main components. And in the middle of it is kind of like this musky feel that glues it all together. Super elegant, timeless scent. Smells like it could have come out at any point in time, if you're asking me. So good stuff.
So
I think it's pretty elegant.
I see chats with dads calling us sissy sprayers. He must not go to a job where it's indoors and has an HR department.
Chats with dad. Can you confirm?
People that spray heavy can.
Yes.
You work indoors somewhere, you really can't spray like Michelle all the time.
Yeah, that's a whole nother video topic here. And let's do this one next.
Work from home.
Right.
There you go. He said he works from home, so you can get away with it there. For sure.
Exactly. This one, classic. Eau Sauvage, Eau de Toilette. I blind bought this years back. It was kind of a love at first sniff. I wouldn't say it's my absolute favorite from the house, but I do think it's a timeless classic for a reason. There's a reason why it's still on the shelves. It's still being produced by the brand after it was released in like the late 60s. So again, it's done well. And yeah, it's clean, it's refined, it's gentlemanly, it's understated. I would typically wear this if I'm going to dress up a little bit more during the daytime. Really any time of the year, but mostly maybe spring or summer. I think it's lovely, a little lemony, a little mossy and woody. It does have a bit of a vintage feel to it, but it does not smell like an old man.
No, definitely not.
Right.
That's timeless.
Yeah, it definitely smells refined. That's the best way to describe that. So that's 3. Let's jump to let's do this guy here. Classic yet again. Original Fahrenheit EDT. Yet again, a fragrance I don't wear a ton of. And it was a fragrance
coming with a lot of timeless profiles from Dior.
Sure. Yeah, and there's many more I don't have. There's a lot like Dune and whatever, like not Chanel. What else they got? I can't think of others right now, but there's some others I don't have that people rave about. This one I actually hated when I first smelled it. I smelled it at like a Macy's when I started, collecting, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Came back to it later. Oh, I actually really like it. So Grace doesn't love this one. So I don't typically wear it all that much. Who?
Andrea.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah, she does go crazy about this one.
Yep.
Kind of a hard scent to describe. It's kind of fresh in a strange way, a lot of violet leaf. There is an almost sweetness to it, but it's not like vanilla. It's not like fruit. It's kind of like this weird, like leathery sweetness, spices, a lot going on in here. It's a beautiful blend. Yet again, timeless. And I don't mean to just throw that word around flippantly. This doesn't smell like it came out in 1988. It does if you knew people in 1988 wearing it. Of course, association makes a difference. But without that, This could have come out last year, honestly.
I mean,
I
all
thoroughly
three of
believe
your
that.
examples so far, I find to be masterpiece DNAs because it's the originator of the DNA for each of them.
Yes, and the originator of a lot of money for Dior.
Yes,
For each
yes,
of them.
certainly.
And let's see, my last one for this first half will be cologne. Right, this is I think what was it 2013
14,
when
I
this
think.
something like that. Yeah, and I
I
mean
would
this is
still love to get the silver stem version, the original Dior Homme cologne when it was just a fresh version of the original. I've
I
tried. I gave up a couple of years ago. I was actively seeking it back in like 2019, 2020. It's hell to find.
I did do a quick little eBay search a couple years ago. I was real excited, and then I got really unexcited very quickly when I saw those
Mhm.
prices. I'm like, it's
Exactly.
not worth it. Not worth
Nope.
it. So anyway, yeah, this is like a tall glass of just a beautiful day in a bottle.
Mhm.
It's lemony, it's musky. There's a white feel to it, very fresh and uplifting, just like a refresher. When you want to just feel good. So, alrighty. Um, let's move to the rest of YSL for you.
So this is a combination of L'Homme and La Nuit de l'Homme because technically La Nuit de l'Homme is a flanker to L'Homme,
Indeed.
which the flanker has a ton of flankers.
Yes.
So I'm just going to kind of do them pretty much together. I'm not going to go in order. I got them piled up this way. But I guess we'll start with the most recent hype beast of the group with Bleu Electrique. So this has got
Alrighty.
tons of
Yes.
attention over the last year and a half or so. It's basically a more lavender heavy take on La Nuit de l'Homme, and it performs a lot better. So a lot of people dubbed it vintage La Nuit de l'Homme. It's still available over in Europe. Very difficult to find here in the States, but it is good stuff. Hype's warranted, hype's justified, in my opinion. It is superior to La Nuit de l'Homme, at least current formulations, which I have a relatively newer version of La Nuit de l'Homme, which I guess we'll go ahead and slide into that real quick. Might as well, since I'm talking about it. It only makes sense to talk about the original next. We talked about the hype beast. Now let's talk about the original part of this scent profile. This is like a 2018 bottle.
Okay.
So it is a lighter colored juice. It's not the old dark amber colored juice, which I believe you have an older bottle, right?
I have a 2013.
So you got one of the beasts.
It's pretty much a beast. I mean, obviously there's older ones, of course, but the person who sold that, they did not know what they had. It was on eBay for like $40.
Wow.
When I bought it. And
That's
I didn't know
impressive.
I know. I think they did say, 2013. I'm like, is this a fake? I bought it. I'm like, no.
It was great.
Let me go ahead and I'll see you.
So as far as these two, same situation, evening, powdery, warm, spicy cardamom. This one's a little bit more in the soapy lavender, but overall pretty much the same. This is this with a little bit more lavender, basically. But you have to like powdery. It's very playful and seductive across all ages. Some might deem it a little bit more youthful nowadays because there are more matured smelling ways to smell like this, which I have a lot of the flankers we'll discuss that have a little bit more refinement, less playfulness, but still have some form of sweet and spice to them because that's kind of the core of this. The powderiness is kind of just a byproduct of the way the cardamom comes across. It's not necessarily the main focus of the DNA, but lovely. I mean, I think this is an all-time great. It was hyped to death for years and years, and this is just the new hype. It's basically the same thing.
Yes.
Just performs a little bit better.
Okay. I gotta say, the original, it has a very special place in my heart. I still love it. I
wore it literally last week to dinner.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's so good. What else?
So here's one that I know your wife is a big fan of. The discontinued Ultime.
Oh, yes.
I've witnessed firsthand Grace rave about why don't you wear this more? This is so amazing when we did a video in Chicago.
Yes.
That
stuff is good.
Often like people like to seek this one out because it's basically you get a lot of the ginger from the DNA of the original L'Homme mixed with this dusty rose type of smell. Nice, soft, and dry rose. Just deliciously sexy. This is a beautiful aroma. It can be worn casually during the day. You're going to have some sex appeal going with your scent profile if you want to wear it casually during the day. But obviously, as with most of these fragrances, this one in particular, a little bit better for evening wear, nights out, because like I said, it does have that appeal to it. Another one that's very charismatic and a little different. It's out of the norm, the way the rose comes across with the ginger. Obviously,
Yes.
there's other things going on in here, but that's the most prominent notes that I pick up.
Yeah, man. I think it has quite a bit of cedar wood, and I think that contributes to that dustiness you're talking about with the rose, the
Probably
dryness for sure. It's that stuff is so good.
so good. Now, one that doesn't get any love is La Nuit de l'Homme L'Intense.
I still don't think I've smelled it.
This is one
Actually.
of my wife's favorites. So you get a little bit of the sweet spice of the original's DNA, but here it's dominated by a powdery iris violet combination. It's a softer scent profile. It's more intimate setting, nightcap kind of
Yes.
fragrance. 2 or 3 sprays. Most people say, "Oh, it's just too weak. I got to spray it to death. It's not worth it." Sure, you might only get 5 hours out of this one, and it's not going to push really hard off the skin. But in those instances where it's more of a cozy, intimate situation that you're going to want to wear this one. At least that's what my wife prefers I wear it for. That's specifically the type of situations I wear this for. When we're going to be side by side next to each other, just in general, these close encounters type of situations. This is sexy. This is probably,
Wow.
in my opinion, and the feedback I've gotten, her the sexiest of all of these L'Homme and La Nuit de l'Homme flankers that I have.
Okay.
And it's probably the one that gets the least amount of love.
Yeah. How would you say it compares to the original DNA? Maybe I missed that. Like, do
Well,
you
that's the
feel
thing.
like
It ties in a little bit. It still has that
okay?
kind of that cardamom spice, a little bit of
Yeah.
sweetness, but it's predominantly overwhelmed by this violet and iris combo and a distinctive violet, that earthy floral tone that violet can bring
Cool.
sometimes. It's got that distinctive violet smell, and it's kind of relatable to the waxy makeup bag smell of the iris that's in Dior's Homme
Cool.
line. Maybe not quite as intense of a powdery tone, but distinctively similar as far as the way the iris is done. Doesn't smell
Cool.
just like, if you look at the smells like section on the websites, it's going to throw Dior Homme in there, but it's kind of like if you mix that with La Nuit de l'Homme. It's kind of how you can
Okay.
look at it. This
Makes sense.
beautiful, so underappreciated. Not just
Yeah,
underrated, underappreciated for what it actually is.
need to smell it.
So a little bit more leather, but still ties to the original DNA is La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Parfum.
Mm.
This one, another one, very underappreciated. And I think the reason a lot of these don't get the love that some of them really deserve is because so many come out. I think that's the
Mhm.
biggest issue here, because this one's a little bit more grown up. It's not as playful. It's not as powdery.
Mm.
It's still very, very spicy and warm and ambery and rich with a little bit of this supple leather that I wouldn't call soft, but I also wouldn't call rough and animalistic. It kind of falls somewhere in between. And if any powder, it's faint. It's just a little bit. Like I said, this is a little bit more grown up and less playful of the original's DNA.
Yeah.
So, performs really
Okay.
well too. This one's easily 8+ hours on skin. It's pretty loud in the first 2 hours. You don't need a lot of spray. This is one that I would suggest leaving room for discovery. Don't overspray this one. I think it can be too much. 3 to 5 sprays max if you're going on a date with this one. If you're going to a bar, sure, you want more. I get it. Open area, trying to attract multiple people. I get it. But with your
Yes.
significant other, married man like the two of us are, 3-4 sprays is plenty for your setting for your dates. Another one,
Perfect.
date night appropriate.
I don't think Chats with Dad would approve, but that's okay. 3 to 4
All good.
sprays.
All good. I'm trying to cruise through these as quickly as I can.
Oh, you're good, man.
So
I think I've
one,
almost blind bought the EDP a few times. I just haven't. I haven't smelled it. So
it's very good. Well, here's
yeah.
my question: have you ever smelled Dolce & Gabbana, the one Intense Eau de Parfum, the piano black bottle?
Nope. Haven't.
Hyper redundant. Don't get both.
Good to know.
Same fragrance, different bottle. Anyway,
Okay.
so
Amazing.
L'Homme L'Intense, also
Oh
known as
yeah.
L'Homme Parfum Intense. Same
Okay.
fragrance,
Yes.
different names. Weird how that worked out. This one has a little bit of a roasted chestnut feel to it. It's a little warm and ambery, aromatic. There's a kind of undefined sweetness in the background. It's not a very sweet fragrance. This is one that I don't reach for much. I mean, I've put a dent in it in the past, but I haven't worn it often in a long time. A few years
That's a
ago,
good
I
little
used to
dent,
reach
though.
for it. Yeah, I used to reach for it a good bit years ago.
Hmm.
More so 2018, 19, even 20
Yes.
range. It's good stuff.
I remember smelling that one a lot in Sephora back when it was still in stores. Is it still in stores? I don't
I
even
don't
know.
think it is anymore. There was a
Okay.
time when they discontinued it and you could get them really cheap. I don't know if it's
Okay.
discontinued overall. I think it is.
Yeah.
But Sephora was clearing them out, and they were popping up $30, $40, $50 for the different size
Wow.
bottles, which is what happened with YEDT when they
That's right.
reformulated. I have a backup 100 ml bottle that I may never use, but it was $39. I said, why not?
Yeah.
It'll never happen again. Let me get it just in case.
That's right.
So,
For sure, man.
but this one, very understated, not the easiest to find for a good price anymore. It's basically a collectible at this point, but it is wonderful for the fall and winter. That on cooler days, I think, is just as good of a daytime scent as it is an evening scent. It has the levels of seduction that you would expect with the more warm and ambery fragrances in the line from the house, but nothing so spectacular that I would say you need to rush out and try to find this one for above retail. Not worth
Got it.
you know.
Cool. Nice.
So I'm trying to get through them quickly.
Are you doing great, man?
The color is
Yes.
very fitting. More of a blue
Yes.
fragrance take on one of Justin's all-time favorites, which is YSL L'Homme.
Gosh. Yes.
See, I know my guy's a big fan of that one. So this ties directly to the DNA. I wouldn't call it an exact, just high oil concentration version, but it does have some of that freshness, a little bit of that gingery spice to it. But it has a little bit more of this like sage aromatic type of feel that kind of makes it more of a blue fragrance. I don't remember the notes specifically, but there's a little bit of a sweetness here. I want to say it might be tonka bean. It smells just out of the atomizer like it's a little bit of tonka bean. Like I said, I don't remember the notes exactly, but hyper versatile. Definitely performs better than bottles of L'Homme. That's the biggest complaint about L'Homme. As you know, people complain, oh, it's 2 hours and it's gone, 3 hours and it's gone. Or the infamous 20 minutes and it's gone. I still hear that on a daily basis from somebody about something. It never fails.
Man, I sprayed it up my nose and I can't smell it. 20 minutes.
Literally, I cracked the bottle and just dumped it on my head and it was gone in 5 minutes. It was the craziest thing. But with this one, I think if you want to get an appreciation for the original, but maybe you're skeptical about performance, maybe you've tried the original at Sephora and it was like that for you. 2 hours and it's gone. You don't deem it worth it. If you want what's, I would say like 75, 80% similar to La Nuit de l'Homme, YSL L'Homme, maybe give the Le Parfum a try because it doesn't venture far away. It does have its twist and tweak on the DNA. It kind of takes it into more of a modern time, whereas L'Homme came out in like, what, 08? It's been around a long time.
Yeah, maybe even like 06 or something like that.
Something like it. It's been around a long time. So it kind of brought it into a newer generation because if it was 06, I mean, we're talking 17 years ago. An entire generation has happened since then. It's crazy to think that with 06.
It is, right?
But this suits young men a bit more versus, even though that's timeless, this takes it a little more into the modern era.
Okay.
You know, have any experience with it?
Is there a parfum that's newer than that?
There's an eau de parfum that just came out last year. It's boozy. It does smell like L'Homme, but it smells like boozy L'Homme.
You know,
it's really good. I've tried it.
I feel like I don't know if I've tried the Le Parfum. Just the other day, in fact, the day I went and bought Sauvage in Sephora, they had a flanker. I thought it was maybe just the parfum, and it didn't. It smelled like nothing like the original to me at all, and I didn't really care for it. But I do believe it was different from the Le Parfum, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't think Le Parfum is still on the shelves these days.
It is. It was in the last time I went to Sephora like 2 months ago. It was there.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's still retail, so it's not discontinued. Because that's a good indicator when something gets discontinued. If Sephora is clearing it out cheap, it got discontinued.
That's for sure.
Grab it while you can, you know?
Yes, indeed.
So with this one, my buddy Sam Broom, shout out to Sam Broom. He sent me this 40 ml.
Oh, are you serious?
Yes. He had the gift set that came with the 100 ml, and he sent me the 40 ml.
What a classic. What a guy.
This is so good, guys. So underrated. If there was ever one that was worth trying to find a good price on that's discontinued, I think it's this one. The juiciness of the citrus. It's very, very inviting. It's even a little watery on my skin, but has a density to it. It's almost got this dill pickle smell to it, as strange as that sounds. The way the citrus comes across. I believe it's bergamot that's in here. And it's a very believable type of citrus. This stuff is, I mean, clearly you have experience with it. It's a great daytime, versatile, year-round wear. More so spring, summer, fall, I think would be the best times for this one. Now, if you see it online and it's $200, Yeah, it's really good, but it's not $200 really good.
Yeah.
Avoid, don't bother. But if you can find it for anything remotely close to retail, even then I wouldn't suggest blind buying it. I don't know how easy, it's probably difficult to find a way to sample it, but
Hmm.
this is one that I would encourage if you've tried it before and you can find it around retail somewhere. This one might be one of the few that I would say is worth seeking out. What do you think, Justin?
You know, gosh, I would agree with you just by the very loose memory I have of smelling it. I don't own it. And I
Mhm.
have tried, I remember trying it when it was still in stores and being like, this is really interesting. And I don't think I was quite keen on just on the violet leaf, feel
Yeah, a
just yet.
lot of violet leaf makes it
Yeah,
acquired.
because I wasn't digging
That's where
Fahrenheit
the
yet at
wateriness
the
comes.
time. So I think I just wasn't ready for it. And then by the time I was, it had already passed. But I would agree. If you can get a good price on that, that is a designer gem. It's one that is not
This is
just
good
like
stuff.
run of the mill stuff. It's a special character to it.
There's certain ones that are worth seeking out, and I would deem this as one of them. I
Mm.
was never going to get it because I couldn't find it for a good price. And Sam's like, "Hey, my man, I'd love to hook you up." And I'm so glad he did. Thank you, Sam.
That's the dude right there.
My
Thank you,
favorite,
Kyle.
my favorite of the discontinued ones I've tried that when it was available, nobody gave it any love but me. It's like mixing La Nuit de l'Homme with Eros. It's Eau Electrique.
I do
I'm
have
a
that one.
big fan of this one. It literally smells like trying to balance out Versace Eros with La Nuit de l'Homme. You
Yeah.
get the mintiness, the geranium feel, the vanillic sweetness. You still get the cardamom with a little powder. This is a beautiful fragrance, ideal for the fall. That's the main time of year I like to wear it.
Mm.
Daytime wear in the fall. Obviously, it works well in the evenings. Anything from this line works well in the evenings, which I have one left. We're almost through.
You're
But I
doing
wanted
great.
to save my two favorites for last. It's intentional. The reason I saved these two for last, because this is my favorite that I like to wear during the day. So I told you about that one. And then at night,
Mhm.
this is my go-to for dinner. This is me and my wife's favorite. Just going out and about, not necessarily intimate settings. The Le Parfum from
Yeah.
Rendezvous.
Oh
Big
man.
fan. It still is sweet and spicy and aromatic and a little powdery, but not super powdery. It smells like the original grew up a bit
Okay.
because instead of cardamom, it's pepper. The sweetness comes from a fruity note accord, and the lavender is a little bit more prominent. It's smooth and a little soapy, and that's kind of where your powderiness comes from instead of it just being overrun with cardamom like the original. This is the refined take. Like I said before, I gravitate to the parfum flankers typically,
Hmm.
which L'Homme Le Parfum, my favorite L'Homme. La Nuit de l'Homme, same thing. Why Le Parfum, my favorite of that. So every time somebody asks me what's the best version of L'Homme, my opinion, what I like, it's always this one. It's an easy choice. I know there's others across the community, like George Atkinson, for example. This is his favorite as well. Justin, do you have a bottle of this?
I do not.
You
I
do not.
remember
Have you
smelling it
tried
when
it?
it was out. Yes, I remember smelling it when it was out in stores. And I think at the time I was still just digging on the original La Nuit de l'Homme. I'm like, oh, I don't need this. This is good, but
So good.
but it's good from what I remember. And I wish
So
I could
good,
try it
man.
again. Yeah.
It's so much smoother. Like I said, this is La Nuit de l'Homme as an adult,
Yeah.
not a young man anymore. This dude's
Mm,
got it. He's a few years into his career working on a promotion. That's
awesome.
this La Nuit de l'Homme. So
I
that
dig it,
completes
man.
our tour of YSL.
I love it, man. So if you could account your top three most worn out of all of those, what do you think they would be?
So that would be YEDT.
Okay. Super versatile. Makes sense.
I've been through a 10 ml and I've put a little bit of a dent in YEDP.
All right.
The
Wow.
reason Le Parfum is not up there is because it's my most recent acquisition. I haven't
Okay.
worn it enough for it to categorize that. And like we just discussed,
Okay.
La Nuit de l'Homme
Okay.
Le Parfum. This is my go-to for date nights. When in doubt, if I don't have a specific agenda on something I want to wear, I go with this. The last date night we had last week, I wore its predecessor. I wore the original because it had just been so long since I had done it.
Awesome. Oh man.
That was
What a
kind of
great
long.
little tour. Yeah, I'm looking at the time. I'm here. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man.
Well, I knew when
Let's
we told each other our totals, I said, this is going to be a long live
yeah.
stream if we get through all of
Yeah.
them.
Well, let's see. I'll see how quick I can move here. Okay, so I
I
got
tried to be quick.
no, you did great, man. We'll just
Thank
see
you,
if we
man.
can put the pedal down a little bit more. So I got more Dior to cover here.
Okay.
Next one up is one I talk about a lot, and that is Dior 2020. And this was a fragrance I tried to hate because when I heard about it,
Same.
it was just like, okay, it's not the original. I don't like it. Why'd they change it? I don't agree. And that's what everyone else was saying. And a lot of people are still saying that. Once I got my nose on it, it grew on me really quick. It took me.
I'm getting a bottle next week. I'm
man.
getting a 50 ml from FragBuy. It's like
I
60,
dig it,
$70. I'm going to get a 50 ml.
I don't know what it is. It is simple. I don't think it's basic though. It is a lot of woods. It's a ton of ISOE super. It's clean, slightly musky, sexy woods, a little bit of a citrusy freshness. And I think there's LME resin that kind of fills out the scent and gives it a little bit more depth and almost this, just more like richness. So it's not just citrus and wood. Loves it. Good stuff. When do I wear it? Really anytime, typically during the day, for any reason, kind of like how you might reach for YSL YEDT. I might do the same thing with this, really anytime.
It's one of those dumb reach or smart reach or however you want to dub the term, but you don't want to think about it. You want to grab and spray. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Appreciate you, Devin. Thank you so much, man. Good to see you. Okay. Next up, we might as well go with its most immediate flanker. This is the sport version from 2021 that technically came out 2022. It's weird, but they stuck with it. And to me, when I first got this, I was convinced that it was not far from identical to 2020. I'm like, what is this? It smells like the same. The more I've worn it, I've realized, okay, it is a bit of a fresh sport flanker. There's more aldehydes in this one. You might dig this.
I have a
the original is great.
I'm getting that in the same order as.
Okay. Yeah, man. Super fresh. It's fresher, but at the same time, I find the dry down, it has more depth to me than the 2020. There's almost
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you detect the olibanum on your skin?
Yes.
I get a smoky nuance for sure.
And that's what I'm talking about. The dry down is darker than the original 2020, which is not sporty at all, but it's nice. You could still wear it as such. I might wear it in the same situations. It's just as versatile, maybe more of a high heat scent in some ways than the original 2020. This is overtly fresher than the original 2020.
That's one thing I can say about the sport flankers, because I have the previous three. They've never put out anything that I wouldn't consider a great fresh Dior fragrance. All four versions are really good. You can't go wrong with any of them.
I regret getting rid of the 2012 years back.
The only one with Iris.
Fun fact. Yes. Yep. Yes. I highly regret that. I remember when it was still kind of out there, I saw a reviewer say something along the lines. He wasn't a fan of it. And he said, Dior Homme Sport 2012 doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, it's classy, but it's sporty. It's like it can't make up its mind. It's like playing basketball in dress shoes. That's what it smells like. I'm like that. Honestly, I can't say that's wrong, but I still like it.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, next up here, a lot of people are asking, what about this? What about this? The Parfum, of course, it's here.
You know that's coming if he's talking Dior. Come on now.
Yes.
We're both massive fans of that.
Gosh. This is a little situational for me. I don't wear it a ton every year. I would say I've worn it at least a dozen times since I got this bottle. And every time I wear it, I highly enjoy it. But it is like kind of deep of winter or late fall, you know, in the evening when I'm definitely wearing something a little nicer, typically to a gig. And if I do, I don't spray a ton because I'm going to be standing right next to other musicians.
I've never sprayed it more than 4 times. Never.
Yeah, 3 to 4 is what I would typically do with this. It can get pretty powdery if you overspray it, but I think it's just so rich and leathery. There is that sweetness is still there. It is a little powdery from the iris, some rose in there. It is just so freaking classy. It's so confident. Love it.
Now look, it's a strong statement to say there's one in that line that's the masterpiece, but it's that one.
Yeah,
it's that
some
one.
People,
because I would argue, I get the argument for the original and the intense. I understand. I love them too. But man, that Parfum, it's special. And I'm the same way. I only wear it in the winter. I wear it maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Yeah. And I've got 275 mLs. I wanted to make sure that I have sprays that outlive my ass. I want to make sure I never not have sprays. It's that good to me.
Outlive you. I get it, man. Okay.
Excellent choice.
Eau Sauvage Parfum. This is the 2017. I never owned the 2012. I have sampled it back when it was still out, and I loved it, but it was like almost too much. And that's why I never bought it. I kind of wish I did. But I'm happy with this. It's kind of a modernized version of it. It is the original Eau Sauvage, but beefened up. It's less
Big
fresh,
time.
less citrusy, more resinous, more woody. Just it is stronger for sure. It still smells a little vintage, maybe a little bit soph- more mature than the original. I would say
I agree.
this. You smell this and you're like, okay, yeah, I would expect to smell this on somebody 30 and up, a little bit more refined.
It's very
Um,
sophisticated.
it is. And, I might reserve this a little bit more for the evening if I'm going to be classy. But even then, maybe warmer weather because it's like fall, spring, maybe something like
Is
that.
it ridiculously powerful on you as well? Because that's another one, 4 sprays max for me.
The 2017, I
It's
wouldn't say
very,
it's
very strong.
ridiculous, but I also haven't really sprayed it more than 3 or 4. So it's always been more than enough. It's been enough. So if I
Are
did
you
more
guys
than that,
starting to see
maybe.
our taste kind of align? We pretty much have all the
Yes.
same Dior fragrances.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Sauvage Elixir. And not the most popular opinion, but for me, it is my favorite in the line. I wouldn't say it's the most versatile in the line by
Mhm.
any means. You could wear the original 1,000 times more per year than I think you could pull this one off comfortably because it's so freaking strong. It's so rich and dense. It's not as fresh. Not something I would pull out in the high heat on a summer day. Ugh, that's a little bit too much. It actually gets a little oily in a strange way, like a resinous, oily feel when there's too much heat. I remember when I got this. I think it was when it came out back in like fall of 21,
I think it
something
was
like
late
that.
21 that it came out.
Yeah. And I remember the following summer, I was like, only spray it on. I'm like, oh, this is a little too much.
Too crazy.
So I kind of backed off and it was just like 2, 3 sprays that day. I'm like, I'm not doing that ever again. So I saved this for those moderate times. It is the Sauvage DNA. It's just darkened up. It's made a little bit more of a fougere, like kind of old school, like a Dracar kind of vibe thrown in there, perhaps a little bit more barbershoppy in a way,
but
but
way
darker.
better than Dracar.
Yes.
Way
Way
better.
better for sure.
Yeah.
And
Fun
my
fact,
final, yes.
before you jump in that, fun fact, since we brought up Michelle and overspraying earlier, like 4 days ago, I want to say she did a Reels video on Instagram and literally told people 5 sprays max on that fragrance. For her to say that about a fragrance, it's strong.
Wow.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was
5
shocked.
max.
She said 5 max.
I
on
am
Sauvage
surprised
Elixir.
because I see her spraying these big Middle Eastern fragrances all
Ouds
over.
30 times.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. That says something.
Sorry to interrupt.
My-
I just had fun
you're
fact
good.
on just how strong.
It
Say
is
that?
so
Oh,
powerful. I am blown away by people who come into my review that I made when it came out saying it lasts 45 minutes on me.
They're trolling.
Come on
you.
now.
That's not real.
Come
That's not
on
real.
now.
I'm sorry. If
Unless
you're
you
watching
spraying
right
it
now,
like
bullshit.
if you spraying it right below your nose, like you put Vaseline up down here when you like have a runny nose or you're stopped up. If you're spraying it right there, maybe sure you're not gonna smell it. That's what's going on. Anyway, final Dior Fahrenheit Parfum.
So good.
Damn.
Almost the perfect cool weather fragrance.
It is. And yet again, another one I did not dig. I bought a decan of it years back. I don't know if you knew this. You probably did. When I got my decan of it, I was surprised that the liquid, the juice itself, is like almost like an emerald green. And if you look at the bottle, you can see that.
Oh, yeah, with that slight part of the line.
You see that?
under
How
the
when I
coloration.
turn it, the green
I never
disappears
noticed that.
because it's actually the liquid. The liquid is kind of a green, which is
I never
so
noticed
funny.
that.
And so I just remember that about the scent, none about the fragrance, but I did not like that decant. I don't remember what happened to it. I didn't finish it. But I knew when I came around to the original years later, I'm like, I'm probably going to like the Parfum. So I ended up doing a swap with a guy, got the Parfum. Yeah, it's like, it is a modernized version if you can have that because the original is already pretty timeless, but it's richer with that vanilla. There's that boozy feel. There's some licorice in there, which not everyone may dig the licorice vibe. It is pretty prominent, but it is captivating. Grace loves this. Evening out, date night, whatever it is, fall, spring, maybe. Pretty strong, so don't need much. Good stuff.
So may God rest his soul. Carlos sold me on that one years ago.
Okay.
Carlos was the one who influenced me to be like, you know what? I'm just going to blind buy it. Because I'm echoing his sentiment with it's almost the perfect cool weather fragrance. And when I got it and started wearing it, I was like, holy shit. It is. It's magnificent.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
I thought this comment was hilarious. If elixir doesn't last on you, you're an ashy mofo. Could be true.
Very well.
Could be true. So my top 3 most worn out of all of these Dior's, that's easily going to be.
I'm going to guess elixir is one of them.
Indeed, it is. So it's funny. I did do some toweling. I found out that I've worn these 2 the exact same amount. So these could be basically tied for third, the original and the Parfum.
And I would argue that if you have those 2, you don't need Intense.
Indeed. Yes, you don't. Number 2 is Elixir. Definitely. And number 1 is 2020. I can't believe it, but it is
the last year you've referenced it a lot more in your videos.
I've referenced it too much. Honestly, I keep like,
means you're wearing it a
lot.
lot.
About this. I am, and I'm just like trying to be real with people. Like, hey guys, I'm talking about what I'm wearing, and I'm wearing it. It's just like it's in my rotation at least every other week. I'm reaching for that in some way, even if it's just for a few hours and I wash it off. Sometimes I just do it like that. Okay, so we are about an hour in.
Exponentially wonderful taste, sir.
Hey man, I appreciate that, and I'm glad that we align in many ways in that way. So it's totally likewise. We spent an hour on our first brand here, so I'm
Should we just do it all together and breeze through it, since it's because we're looking at 3 hours at this pace.
Yeah, and unfortunately I only have about another hour and change.
Let's just kind of adjust.
Yes. So just like, if you want to just concisely say what you can.
I feel like I should skip Armani then, because I have more Armani than I did YSL.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I saw somebody earlier trying to guess what I had. They said Armani and Mercedes. Well, you had the Armani part right. Yes.
Yes.
A lot of Armani.
I'm trying to.
I'll try to be brief.
Okay. So let's. How about this? Let's commit to our next brands each, and then let's see where we're at.
Let's see where we'll go. I'm gonna get the big one out the way here. So the only one I have in this line, obviously I'm going to talk Armani here, guys. And that covers a wide variety of ranges. That covers Armani Code, that covers Stronger With You, that covers Acqua di Gio, that covers Armani. This is the only one I have. It's Eau de Noir. It's kind of a spicy and woody iris fragrance. That's why I have it in the first place. It's a 50 ml, very elegant, evening appropriate. The black bottle is very fitting. Great evening wear scent. If you're a fan of iris, it's worth getting. It's not overly makeup bag type of smell. It's not as powdery. There's a little bit of a sweetness here, but it's more woodsy and spicy overall. Even a little bit of a licorice feel, even though I don't remember that being in the notes, just a little bit of it. It's a very interesting scent that has a smooth, mature vibe without smelling old man-ish. I think would be the best way for me to put this.
Got you. Yes. I think I have had a decan of that one in the past and really enjoyed it. Very smooth for sure.
So I'm going to keep on cruising. So we're in Stronger With You. So this is the Emporio Armani line. This is Intensely. I just grabbed the first one. It wasn't in order. But this is a lot of people's favorite. It is Intensely the sweetest of the group. A lot of toffee in here. This toffee note really shines here. You do get a lot of the spice, and even though it's not real, I don't remember it being in the notes, the roasted chestnut that the DNA is known for, you're still going to find here. Performance can be a lot for people. You need to know what you're going into. This is even though it's a mass appealing designer scent, I would strongly suggest, as with everything else, trying this first, because it is, like I said, immensely sweet and powerful. And if you're not ready for that, it may be a waste of money if you blind buy it. It might be something that you buy and it just sits on the shelf. But if you like those kinds of things, from a designer standpoint, it's one of the best sweet designers to ever come out, in my opinion. Definitely evening appropriate.
Okay. I don't think I've actually tried it.
So the one that I would encourage everyone trying is my favorite in the line, which is Absolutely.
Is that the newest one?
The newest one is Amber. It just came out like 2 months ago, but this is the previous release for last year.
That's what I thought.
So what's different here is you have some rum. to kind of balance out with the spice and the sweetness. It's not as sweet as Intensely. It's not quite as spicy as the Eau de Toilette. The Eau de Toilette's more spicy than it is sweet. It's a nice balance of all of them with some rum, and it's not too much of any one thing. The roasted chestnut, again, is featured here as it dries down. It's moderately boozy, moderately spicy, moderately sweet. It's all kind of just smooth. It's no rough around the edges. It's not too much of any one thing, and it's a very strong performer. This is a lot of people's favorites as well. It pretty much comes down to your team Intensely or team Absolutely from what I've seen for what's people's favorite.
Okay.
That's a thing. But you can't go wrong. You really can't. And I would say the dark horse of the brand, of the line, is Freeze. So Freeze is probably the most spring and fall appropriate daytime scent. It's a more simplistic take on the original. It's more fresh and spicy than it is warm and spicy. Again, features that dry roasted chestnut. Dry down performance is above average, not quite the beast as the previous two, but with a fresher flanker, you would expect it to not be as strong as the heavy ones, right?
Sure.
This is actually, the first time I smelled it, I was just kind of lukewarm with it. Like, okay, it smells good, but maybe some of the stuff I've seen on the internet, it's true. Maybe it's just a watered down basic version of the EDT. This is a grower. This one will grow on you when you wear it. I'm a firm believer in this is better to have than the Eau de Toilette at this stage, which when I first smelled it, I was the other way around. I thought the EDT was superior. This is better in a warmer climate. It's still not a high heat fragrance, but if you like the DNA and want something that's more daytime appropriate, then Freeze is going to be the version for you.
Dig it. Is that one discontinued?
I think so. Only took its place.
That's right. That's right.
Which Only's pretty good. Back it up. Damn it. Looks like I got to buy. Don't you all buy it before this live stream. Don't you all do it. I must have an email because I had notifications turned on for it.
Okay.
So
FragBuy.
thank you, Chromatic, for the heads up, but don't you guys sell it out until I get my bottle.
Yeah, guys, leave one. Come on.
Yeah, leave one. Just leave one. And here's the Eau de Toilette, the original DNA.
Yes.
It really is all you need. It's a good balance of everything. It's spicier than it is sweet. The Intensely came out as the follow-up to this, which was the other way around. It was stronger and sweeter. But this is the most prominent roasted chestnut because it's where it originated from. Beautiful, warm, spicy, sexy, seductive, nighttime appropriate, cool weather fragrance.
Yeah.
As simple as it gets. Because we've covered all the flankers. It's easy to cover the original at last.
For sure.
What were you going to say?
Oh, I like it. I like the original. I haven't smelled all of them, but of the few that I've smelled, I think the original is still my favorite thus far.
It's easy to like because it's got a lot to offer minus the booze. That's kind of the only thing that's missing from like Absolutely is the only one with the booze.
Exactly.
All right, so let's jump into the greatest fragrance of all time.
Greatest money maker of all time.
Yeah, the real king, not Aventus. This is the real. Creed wishes they would sell this many bottles.
Oh my gosh! Worldwide,
it's absurd. It's timeless. And look, it still works. It's still one of my wife's favorite fragrances on me. The reason there's a dent in this bottle is because I kind of wear it for my wife because I like all the flankers more. I do still love this fragrance. It's 90s in a bottle. Yeah. It takes me back to the younger years when I started appreciating colognes. As we used to call them.
Times, yes.
But you can't go wrong. There's thousands, if not millions of guys at this point that this is still their signature scent to this day. This is still a top-selling fragrance.
Oh man, real quick. I remember there was a period of time when I worked as what's called a fragrance model. So I worked for L'Oreal, in which I would go to like a Macy's and I would stand in front of the counter, not behind it. And I would specifically try to guide people towards the houses that L'Oreal has, Armani being one of them. And I cannot tell you, a majority of the sales that I witnessed were dudes coming up to, to the counter, not to me, but to the counter. I try to engage them like, hey, how you doing, sir? You looking for something? Aqua di Gio. I came for a bottle of Aqua di Gio. Oh, you sure? We got the Profumo. You want to try this? No, the original. I'll take it. Just give it to me, and here's my card. I'm like,
it's that easy.
I've been wearing it for 30 years. I'm not going to change it. I'm like, all right. So many times.
And look, it's been years since you did that, and I guarantee you it's exactly the same. It's still that.
Yes.
What I believe to be the best that unfortunately was too basic for Justin, and he sold his bottle. That would be.
I got it. Well, I got it back.
It was for sale.
No, I sold it a while back, but I got it back.
But I'm talking about the real video where you're dancing and the bottle's singing to you and everything. I thought that this was
Oh,
the
no,
bottle
no,
that had
that
the lips and the eyes on it.
those
I thought you were
bottles.
selling it.
No, those bottles were no. That was a total joke video. I
Oh, see, I
wasn't
thought you
actually
were
selling
selling it.
those fragrances.
I took you literal. Like shit, I can't believe
Okay.
he's selling that. That's such a good
No,
fragrance.
I didn't. I didn't sell it. I still got it.
Point being, this is the king of the mountain for me. Some of you have heard
Okay.
me say that. I think this is the best version. The incense and patchouli really kind of polish off the I guess the fresh daytime side of it. This dresses up better than all the rest of the versions. This is the more. It's like if you grew up with Aqua de Jo, this is what you naturally would evolve to if you want to stick with the scent profile. I do believe it to be the ultimate version. The parfum that just came out, I've had people message me. It's not the same. It is the same. It's the same note breakdown as this one. So obviously we need to be our own judges and get our nose on it. I'm going to smell it. But for me, I don't know if they'll ever put out a better version than Profumo. I think from a performance standpoint, a likability, and a versatility standpoint, I think it really is the ultimate version of DNA.
Yeah, there's something special about it. It has more. There's just more down there. I totally agree.
To the dark horse that got no love, the flanker of the flanker, Absolute Instinct. So with this one, there's an ebony wood and seaweed accord that I always thought was super interesting and intriguing about this scent. While it's still got the marine notes and some of the fruitiness of its predecessor, the Absolute flanker, which we'll get to next. It was a limited edition flanker like Profondo Lights. They like to do these limited edition flanker to the flanker. And I've always liked it. I mean, they've only done it a few times so far. And this one got no attention, no love. It was very lukewarm in the review side of things. And I think it's underappreciated. Discontinued and overpriced now. But boy, I'm sure glad I got a bottle when I did. I like to wear this one specifically in the summer when I want something that's aquatic but a little different. Like I said, the ebony wood and the bitterness of the seaweed really kind of take hold of this fragrance and make it a dark aquatic. This is one of the few very dark aquatics that I have. I would put it up there with like Michael Malone Ocean Noir, where that's kind of a dark aquatic. This one's not the same scent profile, but in the same vein, there's a lot of dark nuances with all that fresh aquatic tone at the same time.
For sure. I remember when I was working as a fragrance model, it was around the time that one came out, and I sold this many bottles of that fragrance. People were not digging it. At least the average nose were like, what is this?
Because it's that ebony wood and seaweed. It's so prominent. It makes it so different. So the average person, I could see not wanting it at all. Now, this one got lukewarm reviews when it came out. Its predecessor, Absolute. This is one of my most worn. I actually have a 200 ml backup bottle that a viewer said it wasn't for him and wanted to send it to me. And I was like, wow, I'm not turning down a 200 ml, even though I may never get to it. I have it in the event, but this one's a monster on my skin. I would say the biggest difference for this one is if you took this, enhanced the fruitiness, and took the incense away, you have Absolute, because it still has the patchouli in the dry down.
Yeah.
It's literally just fruity, non-smoky Profumo. The performance is about the same. The appeal, it's more playful. Obviously, some people tie it to Invictus Aqua. I can see some of that without it smelling exactly like Invictus Aqua. It still smells more like the namesake DNA, but this is an understated compliment magnet in my experience. And I've had people message me when I talk about it, say it's the same thing for them. So just because you don't see tons of popularity in Instagram posts or YouTube videos doesn't mean there aren't people digging this fragrance. This is kind of a dark horse that's much better than it gets credit for. That's the
really nice. Really nice.
Next is probably the most popular one, Profondo.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking in the chat about it.
Oh yeah, it's inevitable. I've said before that if this was a brand new fragrance line, this would be the first fragrance in the line because it's a modern blue synthetic. And it's very synthetic. The opening can be a little harsh and chemical for some. I've seen some feedback for that, and I get it. Alberto Marias used this aquazone note that really intensified the chemical smell to this, but at the same time enhanced the oceanic breezy feel to this fragrance. It's as blue aquatic gets. And it's a beast. And out in the air, it's super attractive. It's known to get compliments for a lot of people because I know that's, that and performance, bro. They're the most important things. This is one of those fragrances for you.
Yes, indeed. Priorities.
Your experience with Profondo? Limited
Limited,
or a lot?
limited, very limited. Never owned it, never had a sample. I have smelled it in stores. I think Corbin had a bottle that I
Mhm.
smelled one time as well, and I found it nice. If I had to choose, I would still choose Profumo, but I liked it. I
Same.
did like it.
Now, I find this to be superior. This was the flanker to the flanker. I know for a fact you've smelled this on me. I
I
brought this to
certainly
one
have.
of our Chicago trips. I wore this
I remember.
Profondo Lights. Not
Yeah.
as synthetic and harsh oceanic at the top. It dries down into Profondo, but the opening is much more green forward. They kind of rebalance the notes. They tone down some of the aquatic nature in the opening and enhance the fresh greens, rosemary, stuff like that. And that's why I like this one more. I would say this is my second favorite version of the DNA. This is
Wow.
really good. This was a limited edition summer release, like I stated prior with Absolute Instinct. The flanker to the flanker is usually a limited release, and that was the case here. You can still find it for a decent price from discounters online, and it's one that's absolutely worth getting your nose on. I don't know how easy it is to sample now, but it's damn good. If you like aquatics that have more green facets to them, then this puts it in the you should really try it category. I'm not going to say must try, but you should really try this if you like that kind of stuff. Performance, not as blisteringly powerful as Profondo, but still a strong fragrance, well above average across the board.
I do remember it being pretty green. That's one thing
Yeah,
I
it's
remember
very
about it.
green. Andrea gave me a compliment as soon as I got in the car. She said, "Oh, you smell good today." I remember it specifically.
Alrighty.
So we're blazing through this. I got 5 more fragrances, and we're 11 minutes in when we said let's speed it up. So
Alrighty.
with that said, one that doesn't get any love, we're going to go Armani Code line now.
Okay.
We're going with A-List. This is one I picked up, I believe, at Nordstrom Rack, 50 ml. So the name's interesting. So I wouldn't consider it the most refined take on this. Like A-List, you think black tie. They even marketed it that way. It was marketed like black tie. It's actually quite fresh. Some citrus at the top. Still has the tonka bean DNA. All the things you expect about it. Sweet, all that good stuff. But much fresher. Like fresher than even the Eau de Parfum. Like I put it on the level of freshness as the Colonia flanker, which we'll be discussing in a moment. Still a little bit more powdery than one of the fresher flankers, but that's where it's kind of it's an interesting one. It didn't get a lot of love. It was a limited edition release, but it is really good. I wouldn't say it's one of the best. I don't wear it that often, but it is pleasant. If you like the DNA and you kind of wish it was just a little bit fresher, this would be the one that you need to seek out. If you like the original, you just want it to be freshened up a bit, maybe not as dark and spicy. That's basically what A-List is.
Okay. Great way to put it.
On to my least favorite, Absolute. Some of you right now just went, oh,
wow.
I can't believe he said that. The way the vanilla and tonka bean are done in this is just too cloying on my skin. I can get away with it sometimes, but it's not that often. It's a really good fragrance. I see why people like this one. It's just after about an hour or so, it's just too cloying on my skin. It's so synthetically sweet and powdery on me. It's not as smooth. If it was smoother, it would be much more enjoyable for me. So I seldom ever would. This is my least worn of the 5 Armani codes that I have, which I do have a decant of the Parfum, but I didn't want to include decants in here. Otherwise, I'd have had a decant of the EDP for Aqua de Jo and so on, just stuff I have bottles of. But I know that's going to shock some people, but hey, not everybody feels the same way about every fragrance. I do have it. I do once in a blue moon go back to it, but it's not often because it's technically my least favorite.
Got it.
Very evening appropriate. If you like very, very, very sweet and powdery vanilla tonka bean, that's going to be the one for you.
Okay. It's totally fair, man. No problem at all.
Dark Horse. There was a time when it got hype. Colonia. Blues fitting because there's a lot of orange citrus to this, and it's understated for how powerful this actually is. I've clocked this even at 9-10 hours of still being pretty strong on my skin. This is, I wouldn't call it the most versatile blue fragrance in the world because it's still sweet and powdery. It's still Armani Code at its core, but it is the freshest of the 5 versions that I have. But it's good stuff. It's the blue fragrance lovers version of Armani Code. Like they colored it correctly. It is blue Armani Code through and through. Though it's still not the best choice for high heat. I would say slightly cooler summer evenings. I think summer evenings, this is a phenomenal choice. If you live in a warm climate, summer date nights, I've featured it in a summer date night video in the past. I think it's phenomenal for that. It's a great choice.
Yeah.
Daytime, I would think more spring, fall, daytime wear. It's
Okay.
fresh, but it's still pretty damn sweet and powdery.
Yeah. I've only ever had a decan of it, which I only wore one time. It was in the summer. I didn't know how strong it was. I went and met somebody and they hated it. They were overwhelmed by it, and I never wore it again. I didn't dislike it, but I agree with you. It's like not really what
You
you
wore
think.
it in the wrong situation is what
Sure
happened.
did. Sure did.
You didn't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
You probably was like, damn, this smells good. And you went out and they're like, nope.
You're like,
Mm-mm.
oh, and they were just like, oh, your cologne. I was like, oh, damn.
So this
Never
was
again.
my favorite before the last one. This is Profumo, hashtag 30
Classic.
mLs.
Yes, indeed.
30 ml
yes,
gang.
indeed.
This smells like a powdered chocolate donut with some leather. I've always said that about this one. Chocolate donut, chocolatey leather, and it's powdery from the tonka bean, the signature note.
Donut.
A chocolate donut
so
with
funny.
powder on it. Not just a powdered donut,
Wow.
a chocolate powdered donut. It's weird. I get it. But next time you smell it, for those of you that have it, now that's what you're going to think.
You know, it's so funny. So many people say it smells like root beer. Do you get that vibe at all?
A little
too?
bit. A little bit. I
Okay.
get that. I get that. But when on my skin, because the powder is so intense,
Yeah.
that's I smell it. God, it's so lovely.
It's
This
really good,
was
man.
my favorite for the longest time. I don't wear it that
Okay.
often. I 2 to 3 spray it. It's immensely powerful on my skin. This one can be too much. If you 5, 6, 7, 8 and above spray this one, you're gonna. I would choke myself out. You know, everybody's different. I get it, but 2 to 3 sprays, and it's enjoyable for me. It leaves enough room for discovery where it's still easy for people to detect. My wife tells me all the time it's too strong. Not all the time, but when I've worn it, it's that's too strong. At 3 sprays, she tells me that. But I get to enjoy the sillage. I'm wearing it more for me.
For sure.
Because I just love the way this one smells. Do you still have your bottle of this?
I do. And it's still my favorite of the line for me personally.
I could
At
see
least
why.
of what I've smelled. Yeah, it's really good.
The first time I smelled this was on a test strip with you, and it is now my favorite Armani Code Eau de Parfum.
EDP.
This is my wife's favorite as well.
Okay.
Those of you that the parfum's your favorite, if you take the iris away, you have this fragrance. It's literally that simplistic. They took this and added iris to make a new flanker.
Love it.
And you would think the iris flanker would be my favorite because I'm an iris guy, but no, it's something magical about this one. It's very aromatic. There's a little bit of spiciness to it. Doesn't make it warm in any way, while still having this, like the way the tonka bean comes across on my skin. It's a bit more robust than in other flankers. I find it has like a thickness to it. It's still powdery. It's still very sweet, but I feel like the aroma overall, as it dries, becomes kind of a thicker sweetness. Not sickeningly sweet, not syrup, just like almost creamy thick, I think would be a good way to put it without being so much. I'm trying to find the right way to describe it. I'm sure you know where I'm trying to go with this.
For sure. No, I know what you mean.
Fan. Big fan, monster performer. Evenings, cool weather, daytime. You can definitely pull that. I've worn it multiple times, cool weather, daytime, but obviously it's an ideal scent profile for the evenings. I would say you can't go wrong with this one. It's not going to be everybody's favorite, but for me and my wife, from my household, this is the best Armani Code.
I dig it, man. Love it.
And that is all of my Armanis.
What are your top 3 most worn?
Because of just in a short amount of time I've had it,
Yeah.
the Absolutely Flanker, just in the winter, pretty much. I wore the hell out of it. Then I would say probably Aqua de Joe Absolute.
See that dent? Yes, indeed.
Yep. And I didn't really wear it much last year either. That's the crazy part.
Wow.
And then I think because of recent times, I got to go with Armani Code Eau de Parfum. I wore this one on a lot of date nights this past winter. I got this like late fall, early winter. So it's a relatively new pickup.
You've been spraying.
I made it in 18 minutes. I made it through 5, 10, 16 fragrances.
That is so
17
crazy.
Fragrances. Yeah, 17
That is so crazy. Awesome job.
I tried.
Okay. I'm just switching up the view every now and then just to keep people
thank you all for
visually engaged. Yeah, no. Thank you for bearing with us both. This is crazy, but it's so much fun. Okay, so my next brand is definitely an expected one, and that is the House of Cartier.
I was wondering when we were going to see it.
Yes, so Cartier is here. I'll start with this one, the original Declaration. I think this came out in 98. And gosh, this is, I would call it timeless. Um, it's odd. It doesn't really remind me of a whole lot of other fragrances that came out around the same time. You know,
Mhm.
it wasn't following the, the aqua oceanic cologne style, craze that, cologne as in the
Yeah, that
ingredient. Like,
cologne note.
yeah, like none of that is in here. This is spicy, like
This
cardamom
is full
with
of it.
bitter orange. Yes, exactly. And that was
This
just like
is what kind
maybe,
of started that trend.
yeah, that was like maybe 95, something like that.
95, 96.
Yeah.
Sorry to
So just a
interrupt, but
couple.
you brought the note
No,
up, and that's a bomb of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. This is a bit of an outlier in relation to when it came out. Yeah, spicy, fresh, citrusy, but bitter orange is the citrusy element here. So it's not like a fruity, approachable kind of citrus.
Mhm.
A good amount of spice, a good amount of woods in here. It has, in fact, I was talking with Christophe Laudemiel one time a couple years ago, great perfumer, and he told me he's a big fan of this because he's a big fan of Jean-Claude Elena, who
Mhm.
perfumed this, and he said it's not listed, but Jean-Claude included just the slightest hint of rose in there that just like kind of hovers around the middle, and it gives it this like classy filling of the scent. It kind of helps fill it out. So it's not too dry, it's not too spicy. There is a smoothness to it, but it's mostly fresh, spicy, woody, and a little bitter, but not overly so. It's just super classy. It's just like a daily wear if you want to smell a little bit more refined,
Mhm.
and definitely maybe more nighttime. I'm sorry, daytime, I would say. Next up is let's go with one of the flankers, gorgeous flanker, the Dune Soir
I've
flanker.
heard so many things about this from viewers.
Dude, you have to try this
Doesn't
stuff.
that one have rose?
It does have rose.
Yeah.
Rose is pretty forward. The original DNA is still in here. That dry, spicy freshness is still here.
Mhm.
But the rose here is a fresher rose. It's not jammy. A little bit of sweetness, but not like thick rose.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of black pepper in here that I think kind of dries out that rose a bit. It's super romantic smelling. It is kind of cliche. It's a rose fragrance, but this is like springtime evening date, and there's just something still very masculine about it, but something elegant and, I would say sensitive. There's a sensitivity to it, but also it's pretty dang strong. It's kind
Oh,
of, um, it's, you wouldn't think it, but after like 7, 8 hours, it's pumping still. So I'm just like, it surprises me every time. Lovely stuff. Let's finish it out with the only other flanker I have, which is the Parfum.
the one I'm most interested in.
Gosh, I need to get your nose on
I've
this, man.
been debating on blind buying it. You rave about it so much. Usually, when you rave about something, I just buy the damn thing. I haven't bought it yet, though.
Man, what I would really, good Lord, what I would
It is.
really
That's
encourage
why.
you to do,
That. That's the kind of shit that makes me buy it.
what I would really encourage you to do is smell the original first,
Mm.
because I have a feeling that if someone doesn't like this, they're not going to like this. It is this. This is like purely a parfum flanker. This
Is
is
it
the
like full of
original.
coumarin or something like that?
You mean cumin,
Or is it
maybe?
cumin? I'm sorry, it's cumin. I knew it was one of them that it's supposed to be like a bomb of.
Yes. Cumin, it was in the original. It's amped up here. So if you're not a cumin fan, to me, I like cumin, at least in fragrances.
Same.
The spice by itself, I don't really care for it. But in fragrances, it brings this like classy edge to it. Now here, you get more resins and leather. You still get a bit of the freshness from the cardamom, from the bitter orange. The core is still here with the woods, but that leather is amped up, and there's a sweet kind of almost resinous feel that matches the way that it looks. And so, very definitely evening wear, fall time. Not the strongest, but above average for sure in terms of performance. I don't do more than 4 or 5 sprays with this, and I'm good. It smells wonderful, so classy.
Every time I hear you
So
talk
my
about it,
hand.
it makes me want to buy the damn thing.
Man,
Because I've
you
heard
need
it's
to
a risky blind buy, but it's like the way you speak so passionately. I like when you spray and you're like, oh man, like that's the kind of
Dude,
shit that sells me, you know?
it has an effect on me. I can't even
Yeah.
really explain it. Okay, let's move on to another classic line, Original Pasha.
Mm.
Now, this is 92. And Cartier I forgot what to say. This Cartier, what I love about them is they don't seem to really veer with whatever is happening in the world of perfumery, especially in the mainstream market. Again, during the whole aqua craze, they put out this. Like, okay, they weren't really caring about this. In 1992, when things were shifting towards more fresher, lighter profiles for men, I think they were still holding on to the Fougere. Like, they were just like, nope, we still like the Fougere. We're going to put this out. And this is surprisingly such a rich fragrance. The quality here is incredible. It is so smooth. There's not a rough edge to it. Now, there is a little bit of this vintage funk. I don't know exactly where it's coming from, but it does smell a little dated in some aspects. But it's robust. It's oomphy. It's pretty strong for being an eau de toilette. It's quite fresh. It is a barbershop style scent, but there's this spicy funkiness that I just like it. I don't really know what it is. Not everyone's going to dig this stuff, so I understand why it's not talked about all that much, but it is a classic. This is a great Fougere done well, and it set them up for this guy, which
the greatest of all time when it comes to that style.
If you want to talk about what could be a perfect parfum flanker, I do think Declaration is that, and this is that too. It does pay homage. Yes, it pays homage to the original. It's undoubtedly here. That slightly mature Fougere vibe is here, but it is modernized, less fresh, less funky, a little sweeter, resinous, boozy, smooth, just as great quality, maybe a little bit stronger, but not by much.
I get so much of the booze bay leaf benzoin out of that one.
Yes,
that combo really shines on my skin
for sure. There's a warmth to it that it's just. I mean, I hate classy. I say that word so much, but it's sophisticated.
You like a lot of classier scent profiles, though.
Yeah.
Fun fact for you guys, he got it before I did, and needless to say, I bought it. And I fell in love with it too. It's amazing. It's the only Cartier fragrance I own.
Okay.
Is that one.
It's a good one to have. Mm-hmm. I think I blind bought this back in 2020, and I'm just like, how is no one talking about this stuff? There was a few here. It
came out in 2020.
Yeah, I bought it like right around that time. I think Sebastian did a review, and I was like, let me check
this out. You were one of the first handful, and I got it after watching you. And I was like in the second handful of reviews.
Okay. Yeah, and now it's everywhere, and rightfully so. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a line that does not get a whole lot of talk, and they haven't really added anything to it in some time. The Lanvin collection. Now, in fact, what I just remembered, they have like a parfum or some kind of darker flanker to this that was not released in North America. I think it was a Middle East exclusive. It has this kind of metallic looking bottle to it. And I've heard amazing things about it. I've wanted to smell it, but I tried to source it. I can't find it anywhere. So maybe one day. But this is the EDP, which is the originator, after which they released an eau de toilette, similar to how Tom Ford has done with some of his, like the Grey Vetiver and Black Orchid and stuff like that.
Ombre leather eau de toilette is coming at some point this year.
Of course. Wow.
Yeah, we got EDP and parfum before we got eau de toilette.
Yeah, Tom Ford has done that so much. That's fun.
And I'm here for it. I think it's gonna be great.
I'm curious. I'm super curious. So it is an odd fragrance. I will say that if anyone has smelled the original Bulgari Man, which I think is an Alberto Marias scent, which this is not, that's like, I think it's like violet leaf, vetiver. There's like a kind of a clean, almost watery freshness, but not aquatic. There is a woodiness, and there might even be a little bit of sweetness in that one. That one is like, it's a shell of what I guess maybe it once was, because it's like nothing to me. I spray it on, and after an hour, it's just vetiver. It's kind of a shame. But this is that refined and made way better. Honey and violet leaf. Strange combination, but it works. There's a rich sweetness here, but it's still light. It's still kind of airy. I think it wears super elegant. I would wear this more maybe nighttime, but if I'm going to wear daytime, it's going to be spring. It's not going to be too hot, because it does behave like an EDP. It behaves in a kind of a richer way when it kind of sits around you, and it's just different. It's unusual, so I can see why it's not hyped, but it's worth a sniff, I would say.
Hype doesn't mean great.
Exactly.
There's a ton of great stuff that doesn't get the spotlight. There's a ton of it.
That is no truer than here in the fragrance community, I think.
Yep.
Okay, let's move to the only one I have in this line, which is the original Roadster. Hard to find.
Love the bottle though.
It is. It's so unique, and most of Cartier's fragrances are, they're based around the heritage of the brand. I love that they stay true to the heritage, which is their watchmaking. So the Pasha, it represents the crown of the watch, the Pasha watch. Same thing goes for Lanval. I guess this is like the crown of the, and this is one of the coolest atomizers.
That's probably for like their divers, I would think.
Yeah, probably.
Screws.
Exactly. And then this is like the Roadster watch. So everything is representative there. It actually, you twist it off and it pops right off, just like one little twist. Super minty, fresh and minty. Kind of a simple scent, but a little different as far as mint goes. It dries down to be not the most interesting, to be honest. It actually doesn't even change all that much, but it's very uplifting, but still kind of classy. So it's something I would wear on a hot day going out, but it's not just like t-shirt and jeans. You could do that with this, but it has a little bit more class to it. It is mint, but there's like a kind of a sweet smoothness somewhere in there, almost like a vanilla in a way that adds a little bit more depth. So it has some more richness, but lovely stuff. I wouldn't go out and spend a ton of money on it just because it's hard to find. FragranceBuy had it for a little while at a good price. And if they get it back, if it's like $50 or less, maybe scoop it up. But otherwise, not worth, running to the edge of the earth to find.
Enrique asked if it's got any relation to Beach Hut Man. I'm assuming no.
No. Beach Hut Man is way more, woody and mossy, way greener. Yeah, just a lot denser of a scent. This is way easier to understand than Beach Hut for sure. Okay, this line came out, I want to say maybe 2 years ago. Cartier actually reached out and they sent me the line. Now, I can't say that the line is the most remarkable. It is intended to be pretty simple, and the quality is good. And fortunately, you can find them for pretty good prices discounted, because I think when they came out, the price was not really worth it. But now I think it could be worth it if you love it. It's the Rivieras line. I'll just show them all. There's three of them. Yeah, and as you can see, I mean, very spring summery. That's what they're going for.
They look like some fresh flankers of sorts.
Yes. So they all came out at the same time. I wouldn't say there's one that is like the originator or anything like that. They are each kind of their own thing. This is Luxuriance, which is probably my favorite of them. It's kind of a green herbal. It's a kind of a realistic herbal feel, like you're in like a field of basil. Not exactly basil though, but it's green and fresh, a little watery in a way. But that's about it. Not a whole lot more to it. Allegresse, I think, is kind of the way it looks. I get almost a yellow floral feel.
Is that magnetic?
No, it just clicks. It's totally plastic.
The way you put it on, it was so smooth and hit hard. Like, I thought it was I was like, man, it looks like plastic. How's that magnetic?
Yeah, it's totally plastic. I don't remember the last time I sprayed this, to be honest. I think this might be my least favorite, but it's still really nice. It's simple. It's fine. I need to spray it this summer. I'll get reacquainted with it. And Insouciance is actually one that Grace wears of these the most. It's a lot of violet. Pretty heavy violet scent, a sweeter floral, still a bit green, very fresh, very light. They don't last very long. It's just kind of a daytime uplifting scent that you can put on something else later.
Based on the way they look, I assume they were, like I said, fresh. The reason I said fresh flankers, I was thinking short-lived, 3-4 hour type of thing. Very, very, very fresh.
Yes. Yeah, they're all eau de toilette. They're all, they're just not throwaway, but yeah, you spray it on and then you might forget about it, but it's keeping you fresh, whatever. But they're nice. They have a little bit of character to them, even while they're simple. And my last Cartier is the only one of this line I have. It's called L'Ur Mystérieuse. And this is one of 12 in this collection. You see the 12 Roman numeral on the back. And I think this collection was made to commemorate like their 100th anniversary or something like that. And these are magnetic caps. This is a little bit more of a privé line. They're a little bit more expensive. This is the only one I've smelled, and it's lovely. It is an odd blend. It's incense, I think patchouli, and elemi resin. That's
Ooh.
mostly what I get. And it comes off as like a chocolatey incense. It's more of that chocolatey side of patchouli, not overly earthy, more chocolatey, almost cacao like, but not dusty.
Mm.
Smooth, wispy incense that's like scented with chocolate in a way. Doesn't overly smell edible, though. I wouldn't say it's a gourmand because the elemi resin adds a bit of a resinous kind of density to it. But overall, it's pretty wispy, but it lasts decently. It's
So the
really
next
nice.
time we get together, I need to remember to remind you to bring that one. That sounds like
Yes.
something I would like.
It's really beautiful. It's elegant. I wear it mostly in the evenings when it's not too hot. It does have a bit of an airiness to it, so it can survive some heat and not get too cloying
Mhm.
because the incense is a little bit more open here. But I tend to reach for it more fall and spring in the evening, especially for like a gig or something like that. Very elegant.
Yeah,
A
it
little
sounds like
understated,
something
but
that's
it
a little
lasts.
classy.
Yes.
You had me at incense and chocolatey patchouli. I was like, ooh, that sounds like a good combination right there.
Yes. So my top three most worn
Mm-hmm.
to date are we got
I can
Parfum,
guess two of them. There's one.
Posh Parfum. Believe it or not, the Soir. I've actually worn this more than the other two in the line that I have. I love that. And also Lanvol. Just by a hair, this is my most worn, which I was surprised by, just by a little bit.
I was
But
surprised. I
I'll
was
dig it.
thinking it would be Declaration Parfum. That was the other one I was thinking.
Similar to something like DHP, it's a little situational. I only
Mhm.
reach for it a few times a year. It's
That's
pretty
how I would probably be with
particular.
it too.
It's pretty particular. I got to be in the mood for it, but when I am, every time I smell it, I'm like, I want to wear it right now. But it's not always a great time to wear it.
No, I
So
totally
at
get
least
it.
that's
I
just me.
totally get it.
Anyway, that's Cartier for me. There's many more I want to try, but that's what I got.
So in 36 minutes, we covered two houses. We did pretty good.
Not
I think
bad.
we can
Let's
make
see.
it to right about a few minutes over 2 hours. I think we'll be done.
Okay, cool.
So
What you got next?
So I thought apparently I just have more and more as we go through this because it's Dolce & Gabbana next. And just looking at it, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 fragrances.
Oh my gosh. First of all, before we jump in really quick, I just want to check in. How you guys doing in the audience here? Sorry we're not jumping into the comments too much here. We see you guys are active.
Appreciate you guys, though.
Thank you. 100 and almost 60 of you still hanging out. Really appreciate
We were
that.
at like 240 at one point. Then they're like, okay, this is going long, and some people left.
Yeah, I totally understand. So if you can hang,
It's
that's
still a
fine.
great crowd, though, man.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. We'll try to get some more of these questions as we go. I just kind of zoned in on getting through these fragrances as quick as I could. So, all right, Dolce & Gabbana. What do you love about, or do you have different collections here you're dealing with?
I have technically 3 different lines because light blue is a flanker of Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme. It never gets mentioned.
For sure.
Because light blue it's kind of like how La Nuit de l'Homme is to L'Homme.
Totally.
Because I have Pour Homme and Intenso, which Intenso is a Pour Homme flanker, and all the light blues are flankers of Pour Homme. So technically, we've got the K fragrances, Pour Homme and all its a bunch of its flankers, and the one. We have that DNA as well.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
So I'll start with the smallest collection first, which is the 2K flankers that seem to get so much mixed stuff from everybody. Probably the most hated of all of these would be EDT. Sorry, the original.
The original, yes.
I don't know why people don't like this so much, but Roche L'Homme smells like a deeper version of this, and we all rave about Roche L'Homme. And then Coach Open Road smells like a spicy version of this, and we've all been raving about Coach Open Road. Get it? So this is very powdery and juniper berry heavy. A little bit of geranium.
Okay.
I think in many ways it's superior to the Eau de Parfum for the freshness, but overall wearability, I think the Eau de Parfum is better. But this is actually much better than people give it credit for. And then, fun fact: when I was grabbing all of these, I grabbed it and dropped it and cracked 2 of the prongs off of the crown. So you guys can really put it in front of my face.
Gosh!
So
the king is clinging on.
Long gone. I just sprayed that. God, it's so good. I have it on my hand. This is the only one I sprayed when I was putting all of these together. My wife walked in the room and said, "Wow, it smells incredible in here, but how much stuff did you spray?" I said, "Just one spray of this." She came sniffing. She said, "It smells great, but your whole room smells like it." One spray, underappreciated fragrance. And then, like I said, we have the Eau de Parfum, which is
Okay.
much more dense. And this may ruin it for some of you guys. Somebody ruined it for me, so I feel it's my duty to ruin it for everyone else.
Okay.
The opening
Wonderful.
smells like Tresemme hairspray.
You know, thankfully I don't have any experience with that.
But those of you
that
have this right now, you're like,
that's too bad.
Damn, like you stalled for a second and thought about it and remembered it, and you're like, damn, it does. Next time you smell it, now you're gonna think that, just like Vicks Vapor Rub with Layton.
That's right. Yes.
You can't not think that once you hear it. So Same thing here. So it's very juniper berry, geranium heavy, a lot of woods. This is superior overall. It's a great performer too. 8 to 10 hours easily in longevity. This is a great early spring, but more fall and winter take on the fragrance. Even though this is a little on the powdery side, the Eau de Toilette, I think this is fine in the spring, summer, fall. They're both 3-season fragrances, but not the exact same 3 seasons. But very underrated line, especially the Eau de Toilette. It's just not appreciated by most people. I do have an appreciation for it. I used to have a decan of it before I had this 50 ml. So I guess we'll go ahead into the meat and potatoes of this and start with Dolce & Gabbana Pour Homme. So this is not the vintage with the sticker. This is a more modern version of it. This is a very classy daytime business professional barbershop type of fragrance. Dry tobacco, full of aromatics, without being super soapy, but it is a little soapy.
Yeah, it's one of the most unique pour hommes in the designer world, for sure.
I agree, because it doesn't just smell super manly, but it also doesn't come across as feminine. I would say there's a softness to the way that the specific tobacco oil that was used here, mixed with this lavender, there's a softness to it. It's a very appealing and inviting barbershop fragrance. Hyper versatile. You can wear this for anything. This can be a signature scent for somebody. It was intended to be that one. I mean, they're all intended to be that one fragrance as far as marketing is concerned, but this is the scent profile for sure, that whether it's in a t-shirt on your day off, an Oxford going to work every day, or just clocking out and meeting up with the wife for dinner somewhere to have a drink, whatever the case, this works for everything, all seasons. Not too dense to where you can't wear it in the heat, but not so light, airy, and fresh that it doesn't work in the winter. It's literally as versatile as it gets. And the only one that gets any love is the old stickered versions that none of you can get without spending a ton of money anyway.
Exactly.
This is still good. I'm sure there's people on the internet that have convinced you this is shit and only the vintage is worth it.
It's great.
True.
The character's still there.
So with that said, this is supposed to be similar to the vintage. This is the Intenso. This is the Dolce & Gabbana fragrance I wear the least. I actually don't like it as much as regular Pour Homme. This is an Eau de Parfum flanker, and it does smell very much like it. It smells richer, a little bit warmer. But I don't know, there's something a little musky and funky about it. Maybe not terribly dirty and animalistic, but I don't know, it's not bad. It just doesn't appeal to me as much. Whereas if I want this scent profile, I just go with this.
Yeah.
Which isn't all that often in the first place.
Sure.
Because what it comes down for me is this beauty, Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Pour Homme.
The original light blue,
which is a flanker to the Pour Homme. So this is a very pivotal fragrance for me. This came out in 2005, I want to say. I fell in love with this one.
I think so, for sure.
This was the fragrance that made me realize just how much I liked fragrance. I had to have this. I had got a gift set. My uncle got it before I did. He got it when it launched. Now I fell in love with it. It's not as strong as it used to be, obviously, but you want to talk about mass appealing on its own level. This is still, just like with this one, heavily sold, heavily complimented by women.
Yeah,
I've had many coworkers when I was in the car business, bunch of coworkers, they wore this every day. Didn't matter what was going on, cold outside, hot outside, they wore this. Smelled it all the time. I smelled this more than Sauvage. And at Toyota, I had 7 coworkers that wore Sauvage. I smelled this more.
Wow.
Yes, it's timeless for me.
Yeah,
it's one of the greatest scent profiles of all time for me personally. Being a blue fragrance / fresh fragrance type of guy, this is the ultimate for me. I do believe with all the flankers that have come out, this is still the best smelling version to me personally. It's one of the weakest performing, but it's the most pivotal in my journey. That was a realization for me early 2000s.
Yeah,
because I'd already had a handful plus of fragrances on my dresser at that point. Like, you're into it when you start getting 5, 6, 7 bottles. You're into this a little bit, you know?
Yes.
And that's when
indeed.
I had the realization, was when I got this. So
Okay.
I have such a love, affinity, and respect for this.
Nice.
With that comes the women's.
Okay.
The
It's kind
women's
of like Menno Fresh, right?
with florals. That's right.
Yes.
This is flowery Nano Fresh. That's exactly right.
Yes.
Guys, don't veer. Just because it says Parfum doesn't mean it's just Parfum. This is great. This is, in some ways, for some people, superior. If you're the type that likes fresh florals, which over the years I have developed my palate to where I love fresh florals, which is why I have this fragrance in the first place. It does smell eerily similar to Versace Mano Fresh. And I forgot the specific flower notes in here, but it's a very fresh, flowery, citrusy, clean musk type of scent profile. If your wife has this, your girlfriend has this, go spray it on your skin. If you've never sprayed it on yourself before, because you love how it smells on her, I guarantee you. If your significant other has this, you love how it smells on her. I find it hard to believe somebody doesn't like how this smells on a woman. But on you, it'll smell just as good. I can promise.
Okay.
So with that, let's slide into the Intense for men.
Okay.
Appropriately named. Definitely. It's not all that often the designer brands, like even Dolce & Gabbana, get it right with the appropriate name. YSL is guilty of just running off of the fame of the name and the line.
Yes.
This is actually an intensified smell to this one and a better performing version. It really is the intense version of Light Blue Pour Homme. Problem is, up close, it's a little much. Maybe a little rich, a little too salty, a little off-putting. But out in the air, this is magical. If you're interested in people telling you smell good, this fragrance is going to do that. Now, I've heard this whole rotten eggs thing from, I don't know if it's amberwood or whatever the case. That's kind of a thing with some of these aquatic blues for some people. I've never had that issue, thankfully.
Yeah.
If you're the type that has fragrances that have had a rotten egg smell on you, any blue fragrances, then this one's probably going to do the same thing to you. Just fair warning, guys. Totally. But I don't have that issue. Justin, I'm assuming you don't either.
Well, not rotten, but I definitely have gotten that vibe a little bit from even Acqua di Gio. And I don't own Pour Homme Intense anymore, but I did for some time. And I kind of got it, but it wasn't enough for me to be deterred. I still like the scent. Yeah.
Now, this is the newest one for me. This is the Intense Parfum.
Oh,
I got this in a haul from Fragrance Buy, and this was the one I gave the 9 out of 10. This is even better than this one. Where with the men's, I do prefer the original smell over the Intense.
Okay.
Here, the Intense. And I got to give credit where credit is due. The only reason I even gave these a shot, the reason I gave this one a shot in the first place, I saw Jeremy years ago when Jeremy was worth watching. Shout outs to him. I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. And then for years, I've been seeing him spray this. And I was like, you know what? I love the original. Eventually, I'm going to get that. Got it. And this is take gender out of it, one of the best versions of Light Blue, period. And I've got a bunch of them. I don't have every one between the men's and women's, but I got the bulk. That's why I have so many Dolce & Gabbanas to go over. This is great. It's a little salty aquatic. It still has that fresh floral tone. It's a little fresh and fruity. It's not a super sweet fruity tone. This is really, really good. I'm impressed. I'm a big fan. Again, guys, this is worth trying. I wouldn't say just go out on a limb and blind buy it if you're not used to fresh florals, but this is even superior to the original. This makes me want to dive into more of the women's flankers because the 2 I have are superb. They're awesome summer fragrances, obviously geared for the warm weather, daytime. Same thing here for the original.
Wow. I got to try it. Never even thought about it.
If you like the original, you'll really like the Intense. I believe it to be superior in every way.
Good to know.
All right, so let's get through some more flankers, shall we? So Light Blue Sun. Picture the original with a little bit of this sunscreen coconut feel to it. That's literally the only difference here. It's really good. It's really good. If you like light blue, as long as you don't get nauseous, because they're like Guess 1981 Indigo, the coconut, the way that synthetic coconut is, actually made me nauseous. I gave that, my stepson liked it. I said, here, take the bottle. Haven't seen it in years.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Whereas with this, This is synthetic coconut, and it does give a sunscreen feel, but it's not nauseating. That was the only one that ever did it to me. And for a while, it turned me away from coconut and designers.
Okay.
It's different with niche. It's
Yeah.
actual coconut oil. With designers, it's synthetic. So here, it's not too bad. If you don't like the sunscreen vibe, might be a challenge for you. They're still easy to find from discounters. I want to spray it. It's good. Still has that zesty, peppery, fresh and airy feel
From the
original.
light blue. Yeah,
it's
sure.
still very much light blue. It's a good flanker. And anytime I want to give it credit for being a good flanker, it's because they didn't veer too far away from the original, you know. At least you got a super chat out of it, you know.
Climatic, thanks for the super chat.
Yeah.
That is
no shade with Jeremy. I'm just busting his balls. I've met
Yeah.
Jeremy. I like Jeremy, you know.
Yeah, he'll dodge.
The content's just not the same anymore. I'm sorry. I'll tell him that your content's not the same, dude.
Totally.
But you've influenced me over the years. I got to give you that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But love is love. This was an
Okay.
extremely underappreciated flanker that this came out right around lockdown for the pandemic. So it went to rack stores almost immediately.
Yeah.
I got this like a month after it released for $40 at Raw Stress for Less.
Wow. That's your name.
Because all the stores were closed. Some of the rack stores
Yes.
were open, limited capacity, line up. They could only let so many people in with your mask on and all the shit we went through with that. But I got it for $40 for the 4.2 ounce. And what I like and appreciate about this is they tried something different. It still smells like light blue. Again, they're pretty good about keeping the DNA in their flankers. But this apple gelato note that they have, it's a little warm, sweet, ice creamy type of smell. And actually, it's quite enjoyable. It's actually very good. And there's people that disdain it for that. And I mean, to each their own, but I actually appreciate the attempt to step outside the box a little bit with clearly staying in the same neighborhood. They didn't try to venture too far out of town or anything. I think it's a pretty underappreciated flanker. I don't think it's the best flanker, but I definitely think it's underappreciated. And by the way, we haven't discussed performance. All of these are at least average, some a little better than others. The Intent's obviously the best performer, but all the other flankers, 6-hour range for the most part in longevity. Nothing super loud after about an hour, hour and a half. They calm down, as you would expect.
For sure.
Trying to blaze through these. One I picked up recently, finally starting to go into these long discontinued ones. This is Beauty of Capri.
Okay.
Yes.
One of those you see at like, Kohl's or I don't know. You see them at the rack stores, just kind of in bulk, like all those off the path flankers.
So this is such an addictive smell. So this is light blue plus citron.
Okay.
It's airy. It's even more airy. I could see this one. I haven't really spent a lot of time with it. I just got it like 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm waiting for the summer because it's so fresh and airy. I'm sure it's only going to give me a few hours. People online are bitching about performance because that's like the main complaint. But when you smell this and you see the makeup of the note breakdown, you understand it was meant to be this way. It's very, very, very fresh and airy. Think Aqua de Parma, Blue Mediterraneo type flanker freshness.
It's so funny you said that. Devin just put a comment. Fresh ones make me want to get more into Aqua de Parma.
I have 5 Aqua de Parma Blue Mediterranean fragrances I haven't shown on video yet that are sitting right there waiting to be unboxed.
Amazing. That's amazing.
None of them were blind buys either. I tried them at a duty free in Germany, February when I was traveling. But back to this, I haven't spent enough time with it yet, but I'll tell you what, my first impressions of this one are if you like citron freshness in a fragrance, which usually you'll find some bright summer flankers that will feature that zest and airiness, that very dense lemon smell that citron has. You get all of that here. It's literally airy, light blue plus citron is the easiest way to describe this one.
There you go.
Then the hype beast from 2 years ago.
Grapefruit, right?
Yep. I just picked these next 3, the last one, this one, and the next one I picked up all together. So I had decants of this. I had a decant of this. They are very redundant. I mean, we might as well talk about them together. It'll save some time anyways.
Italian
I prefer Italian Love. Reason being, this is dominant grapefruit pretty much the whole way through. Whereas here, the balance is better with the bergamot, I find.
Okay.
And I get some earthy green patchouli more so out of Italian Love.
Nice.
That's why I deem it to be it's a little bit deeper. It's this with depth, a little bit more depth.
Got it.
It's kind of the best way. This is a more simplified scent that's going to attract more people, but this is a deeper scent that's more enjoyable for an enthusiast.
Cool.
that maybe veered away from the light blue flankers because they deem them a little too basic. While this isn't the most niche thing out there of scent profiles comparatively to the last several years' releases, this has some more intrigue to its scent character, I think.
Okay.
So, hey, we knocked out 2 and 1. Both perform really well, too. Above 6 to 8 hour range, they actually perform really well.
Good to know.
For as fresh as they are.
Haven't tried either of them, but I've almost got Forever a few times. Almost picked it up.
It's as hyped as a light blue flanker can get.
Yes.
And you can get them pretty cheap. This 50 ml I picked up on eBay for like $41. And I mean, you know how to 50 ml might never empty the damn thing.
Exactly.
You know?
Totally.
One line left. This is going to be an interesting choice of words for people, but the one eau de toilette I find so enjoyable. I've never been interested in getting the eau de parfum.
That's right. Yes.
Me and Justin have had this conversation.
Yeah. Because
everybody's complaint is performance. I'm not a single man. I'm not out at the bars for 6, 7, 8 hours when I go out. Then expecting a nightcap after trying to pick women up. I don't need 8 to 10 hours out of an evening appropriate scent.
Seriously, man.
4 or 5 hours is great for a date night fragrance for me. So I've never needed to I've never desired more out of the one than the eau de toilette. I get about 5 hours out of this. It's good for me. I've been married for 13 years. I'm good.
Yes.
You know,
still working.
It still works really well. My wife's a big fan of it. Now, would I like to one day get the EDP just to get it? Yeah, but it's going to be super redundant because it's just a little richer take on this, basically. I've heard enough opinions, including this gentleman on screen with me, to know that it's not different enough. It's super redundant. There's no point in me getting it because it's not something I just wear nonstop. I've had this bottle for a few years, several years, and that's the dent.
Totally.
Because I just have so many fragrances. But with enough of that anecdotic stuff, this is timeless. This will never get old, in my opinion. Very warm, amber, sweet tobacco smell on the synthetic side, but very alluring. Great for young men on up to 50-year-old men, easily. It's hard not to like this one. This is, if there's such a thing as a dumb reach date night fragrance, it's Dolce & Gabbana the one.
Wow. Dig it.
What do you think?
Totally agree. Totally agree. I had the EDT and I raved about it for some time. I don't actually have it anymore because I got the EDP. I don't remember how and when. But I'm like, I don't need them both. EDP. I do. And in fact, I've been thinking I just need to give you it because it's a big bottle. It's like
that's the talk we've had. I was like, man, I'll buy one of them from you.
I need to just, I would just give it to you. Honestly, I don't even really care. I'm happy to just do that. And you would just see for yourself that it is a perfect EDP flanker in that it is the original character, just a little bit dense, denser thicker and more. Yeah, but it's not any stronger, I would say. And that's what people are looking for. That's why I like to say, don't always take concentration as an indicator of performance.
You just did a video on that.
Yeah. Concentration is more behavior and vibe of the scent, not necessarily performance, and not necessarily detection. So
yeah, the wearing experience changes.
Exactly. Once you kind of get away from that, performance and concentration are together, then you'll be way happier with fragrances moving forward. Trust me. Anyway, go on.
Back to if you have La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Parfum, do not get this. If you have this, do not get La Nuit de l'Homme Eau de Parfum. It is super redundant. They are basically, not even basically, they're pretty much the same fragrance. Cardamom leather, ambery, warm, spicy, same type of leather. I mean, they literally smell almost one-to-one. It's super redundant. And because I got La Nuit de l'Homme EDP first, it's the one I wear. I kind of just have this. It's not a bad fragrance, but if you have one, you 100% do not need the other. It's like a rebottling of the same fragrance oil, basically. With that said, this is the one EDP Intense, and it does not smell like an intensified version of the EDP. It smells like a slightly different fragrance. It veers away from that sweet ambery tobacco smell and focuses more around cardamom, spicy, leathery type of feel. There's an ambery tone here, but it's not near as sweet. Like this is not an appropriately named flanker. For all the praise I gave them for how they do with the light blue line, they're not doing a good job with the one. This does not tie directly to the DNA.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad fragrance. It smells very good. It's just super redundant in my collection. So, and
Yes.
honestly, not that many people have Lanawheat de Loam EDP. I would say go after the cheaper one if you've smelled one or the other. Whichever
Yeah.
of the two you can find cheaper online and you want to add it to your collection, get whichever one's cheaper because you're buying the
Okay.
same fragrance in a different bottle.
Okay. Makes sense.
So obviously,
Yeah, I
very
still haven't.
evening forward. All the things I said
Yes.
about Lanawheat de Loam EDP is true here.
Okay. Yeah, I still haven't tried the EDP Intense, but I don't feel like I need to run out and do it. But if I come across it, sure, I'll give it a
I
shot.
mean, I don't know if it's just a liking YSL thing more for evenings or what, but I just gravitate to that. Even though I say they're the same thing, I wear that one. I never wear this one. This one just sits in its box. The top of the box is covered in dust. The bottle's not because it sits in the box.
That's hilarious.
So at the same time, I fuss about how they didn't stick to the DNA, whereas the one gray did stick to the DNA. The one
Yeah,
gray is the daytime wear of the original.
totally.
This very much so smells like a fresher version of the original. You still have that sweet ambery tobacco feel with some freshness and some citrus at the top. A little bit of spice, but it's more of a fresh spice to it. Very woodsy in its base. Like I said, it's fresh Dolce & Gabbana the one. This one's appropriate. I don't know about calling it gray. I mean, it fits the color scheme and everything, but it's definitely, they could have called it Dolce & Gabbana the one Eau Fraiche or Fresh or something like that, because it's a decent performer. It performs about as well as this. I did a full review years ago on it. It performs about as well as the original. I wouldn't even say expect what most people get out of the EDP. 4 to 6 hours, depends on your skin. But let's just say you're a big fan of this one. And you're like, man, I'd love to. It's just too sweet for me to wear during the day. I'd love to wear it to work. Well, here you go. Get this one. This is the work appropriate take on the DNA because it's very true to the original.
Yeah.
Just much more daytime appropriate, the way the scent profile is done.
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm. You have it as well?
I don't have it, but I've smelled it in passing at Macy's many times. And I'm like, yep, smells kind of like the original, but fresher. And I didn't really have a need for it. Yeah, it's nice.
Now we come to the highlights of the house, of the one line anyways. I have two of the three. The one Mysterious Night.
Okay.
This is magnificent. It's hard to believe it's a Dolce & Gabbana, the one flanker. The quality here is phenomenal. The oud is a little funky, but it's more warm and woody overall. It's a very powdery, thick and jammy rose. It's an oud rose, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But you would swear this isn't a niche bottle. It's that good. Performance is well above average. I wouldn't call it a monster performer, a beast or anything like that, but definitely very strong in longevity and projection. It's refined. This is more evening appropriate. This is a classier oud rose. It doesn't have all the funk. Like I said, it's more of a warm wood smell. It's not funky oud, so there's no real challenge here. You just have to like powdery rose is what is the challenge. Do you have this one as well or any experience
with it? I have a decant, and yeah, I echo most of what you said. I haven't spent a ton of time with it, but it did surprise me. That's what I remember about it. I'm like, oh, this is Dolce & Gabbana? Okay.
Right? It did. If you were to blind smell this and have no prior experience with it, it would be hard to guess that it's a Dolce & Gabbana, the one flanker.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah,
so
I would
very
never
evening
guess.
Appropriate, cool weather.
Totally.
Yeah. Definitely don't try to wear this one in the summer or the spring. I don't think you'll enjoy it. And then one that's much more mass appealing, but still very sweet. We're going to talk about Luminous Night, the blue bottle.
Still haven't tried it.
Beautiful. It basically is smoky dates. A lot of incense, which you guys know I love. And the dates notes very prominent. It's a little ambery. There's a touch of spice, but it's mainly the dates and the incense that take that stronghold the DNA. It's at the forefront. Performance is, again, well above average, 8 to 10 hours longevity, easy. I've seen people tell me to get 12 plus. As he likes to say, your mileage may vary. Yes. Very, very true statement. Again, sweet and warm and thick to where I would not want to wear this in warm weather situations. Maybe indoors in the evening. Sure, you can do that year round. You're in a climate controlled environment. Unless you're going to do something where you like sitting on the patio in the summer at night, then probably not a good choice. But this one doesn't have the refinement of Mysterious Night. This one's a little bit more playful because it's very sweet, fruity. Yeah. But there's still a maturity to it because of all the darker nuances to it.
Okay. I still got to try it.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Fun fact about this one, gentleman I'm not going to say his name, but he's stationed in Japan.
Okay.
He's a chef in the military, and he ordered a bottle because it was a Middle East. Just in the last 6 months or so, you've been able to get it from FragBuy, but these are Middle Eastern exclusives. And while it was still only available in the Middle East, he ordered a bottle, and they mistakenly sent him 2. And he's a fan of the channel. And he's like, "Man, I'd love to send you the extra bottle. My treat on the shipping. Let me send it to you." And I don't. There's not too often I'm like, "Sure, random viewers, send me something you spent your hard-earned money on." It was twofold. It was a mistake that he just got lucked up on an extra bottle. And his exact words was, "I want to pay it forward for content on the channel because I know you'd like this one." And it's just sure, cool. You know what? It was the perfect storm to get it. It's just some people are just awesome. You know, thank him for his service over and over. But yeah, this was an extra goodie mistake in an order for a viewer that was then gifted my way. That's why.
Wow.
Crazy
what a guy, whoever you are. Shout outs to you.
I'll say his nickname, Trippy Hyde. You're the real MVP.
Cool.
So that is all of my Dolce & Gabbana flankers.
Wow, what a journey. Yes. What would you say your top 3 most worn?
Ooh, so easily over the years, because this is like my 4th bottle. Light blue.
Oh. Wide margin.
Easily. The rest are going to be kind of difficult, to be honest with you.
It looks probably, like the one has a good little dent as well.
Probably KEDP in the one.
Okay.
Yeah, would be the other 2.
Okay. Cool.
I think. Yeah, that's the ones I've worn the most.
Okay, so you got like one from each of the collections there.
So that was a total of 49 fragrances on my end, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay, so geez, I have my biggest number here, not by a whole lot compared to the others, but it is the biggest one. So I'm going to try to sprint through these. As per the thumbnail, we're talking about Tom Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom Ford was a brand I did not ever have a plan to be one of my favorites. Not that I didn't like them, but you know, especially the private blends, they always seem just a little bit outside of my price range, which they kind of are. And I have yet to buy one retail. But I also thought when I was younger, when I was newer to the community, I thought I would not really dig them because they maybe were a little bit too outside the box. But I've just found myself drawn to the brand and especially the private blend. But first, we're going to start with the signature line, Beau de Jour, which was in the private blend to start. But now this stuff is classy. Fougere, it's definitely similar to something like Zeno Davidoff from the mid 80s. It has that vibe, but it's just more intense.
It's
more of a mossy take.
Too.
It is a thick Fougere. A lot of oak moss and a ton of lavender, and it just gets drier as it dries on the skin. A little bit of that tonka bean-ish sweetness in there, but it is a little bit mature, and it's a great strong fougere if you're looking for one. I would wear it, you know, transition seasons for sure, fall and spring.
It's super popular.
And I think it does well pretty much any time of the day, but daytime I think it has a good vibe. But you could pull it off on a classy night out, maybe going to dinner or something like that. Sticking with
Very
the signature line,
jacket fragrance.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, navy sports jacket, you know, white shirt, something like that.
Suit and tie type of blazer, but it's more sports jacket. That little like casual touch blazer, you know.
Yeah, it's like sophisticated without trying too hard. Definitely has that vibe
for sure.
Also, the signature line, which also used to be in private blend, is ombre leather. The OG here.
So
you know,
good.
I understand why people love this stuff. I really dig it. And I think I avoided it for a while because of the hype, but I'm happy to have it now. It's a sexy scent. It's easy to wear. It's easy to understand from the average person, but it's not completely generic, and it's sexy, sweet, kind of jasmine-y, ambery leather, but almost a little fresh too. Just good stuff. Really nice.
It's incredible. I would take that over Tuscan leather every time.
I would agree with that. I definitely prefer it to Tuscan leather here. I actually have a bit of an older bottle. I think this is from 2015. And it's good. I mean, I've always liked Tuscan leather. I don't get a ton of wear out of it. And when I do, I don't spray much because it can be a little bit much.
Oh, yeah.
That saffron, very spicy, very sharp, rough, like old leather armchair kind of leather. A little bit of that sweet raspberry in there. It is
not like money though.
Yeah, it's confident and it's authoritative. Definitely smells rich. You smell wealthy. You smell like you don't really care what anybody else thinks. So night out, more classy for sure. What is that?
I saw the comment talking about the official Nintendo's players
Oh,
guide.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I saw
I'm
that
keeping an
too
eye on the
earlier.
comments.
This is one of my favorites for sure, and definitely one that's a little bit more polarizing is Tobacco Oud. Man, this
That's a show out.
I was afraid of this one for some time just because of what Jeremy was saying. It's like, oh, I once oversprayed this, and people told me I smell nasty and stuff. I'm like, oh, I don't think I will like that. This is incredible. I think what I was afraid of is that it would be too like stinky, woody, and earthy, but there's actually a good little bit of sweetness in here, kind of like a resinous, boozy sweetness. I think there's whiskey that adds a nice little bit of richness to it. And it is kind of earthy, it is kind of rough, but if you don't spray too much, it is the classiest freaking thing. Now, it is not for everyone. Not to say everyone who comes across you, even if you don't overspray, are
It's
going to like it.
it's discontinued, isn't it?
It is, and I've heard rumors for at least the past year or two that
Signature
it's
line
coming
coming.
back.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it does. It definitely should because
Yeah.
more people need to experience this. Not really much else like it.
So
out on
that
the
Tom
market.
Ford haul I told you I was been since last summer I was planning on getting
Yeah.
that's at the end of the month too. I'm one more
Okay.
round of buying. I've been buying a lot, but I'm finally committing to getting those Tom Fords, the Costa Azuras and Oud Mineral and all that stuff. I'm finally getting them.
Yes.
I've been spending a
Mine
lot
is-
of money the last month.
Hey man, get those
Yeah.
fragrances. There's some good ones.
Yeah.
Speaking of Oud Mineral,
Yeah. I did that on
This-
purpose to make you bring it in
yes, you sure did, man.
there. I wanted to hear about
Oh my gosh.
it. Yes. I
Um,
can't wait. I've never smelled it.
It's smoky seaweed aquatic,
Mhm.
salty aquatic with a kind of green seaweedy feel and quite smoky and mysterious. It's a fragrance that when I first smelled it, I could really appreciate it, but I was never going to. It's quite dry and smoky for being an aquatic. It's definitely reminiscent of the ocean, but it's more like, you know, the Pacific Ocean during a storm. That's the kind of oceanic feel. It's dark, cloudy. There's driftwood in the water. It is not a bright, happy, under the sun kind of aquatic. This is more nighttime, enigmatic aquatic. Not even one I would necessarily wear in the summertime. Maybe in the evening, but I mostly wear this fragrance the other times of the year.
The way
It's an
you
aquatic
describe
pet.
that makes me think kind of Virtus Eau de Cyan. I got that one recently now, and it's kind of
Yeah.
insane.
Yes, that one. Yes, I would say this is a little darker.
Yeah, that's
than
definitely
Eau de
darker, but
Cyan,
like as
for
far as the way
sure.
it's described, like not a mass appealing aquatic, but an aquatic nonetheless. More of a
Yes.
niche, niche crowd.
Yes,
I would think
definitely.
that falls into a similar.
Yeah, not everyone's gonna dig it.
Yeah.
Classic here, Black Orchid.
Oof.
If I'm not mistaken, maybe the first fragrance that they put out, probably back in like mid 2000s.
Was it that or Tom Ford for Men?
I think this may have been first, but it's maybe one
I
of
don't
the
know.
two.
I don't know.
That's one of the two. I've been seeing a lot. I don't know if you've seen a lot of more advertisement about Black Orchid, especially on YouTube ads. They're just like pushing it right now with new.
Well,
advertisements
99%
they've
of
made.
the ads I see on YouTube is Michelle talking with S Boy, like Soldier Boy's constantly pushing her video. That's the ad I always see.
Okay, totally get it.
Yeah.
Customs Journey, thank you so much for watching and for the super chat. So yeah, I don't actually want to spend a lot of time on this because I'm already late for my next thing here. But if you guys haven't tried it, I would advise you to get a sample. This speaks for itself. It is its own thing. It's timeless. It is such a particular character. It's a sweet floral, but there's a funk. There's this earthy feel. Don't be fooled by marketing. It is unisex, I would say. A confident guy can pull this off, but I would reserve it
For
more
sure.
for the evening, wearing darker colors. You can present balance with your presence with a fragrance that feels a little feminine, boost your masculinity. Wear black leather jackets, something like that. You kind of balance out the scale, so to speak.
It's got show-stopping capabilities.
Most definitely.
When a
As
guy's
well as the
wearing that,
parfum. As well as the parfum. For those guys who found the original EDP or EDT a little bit feminine, you might dig this one. This one's a little bit more rough around the edges. There's a boozy feel. It's earthier, but the DNA is still undeniably here. Maybe a little less floral too. So maybe one that might lean more comfortable.
I
for
know you're
some
trying to
guys.
speed through, but I can't see that and not say it. So the last collaboration, bring Carlos up again when I did one of those end of the
Yes.
year favorite pickup of 2020. That was Carlos's favorite pickup of 2020.
I remember that.
Died 2
I
months
do
later.
remember that. I do remember that.
That was his
Yeah,
favorite. Was Black
and I
Orchid.
think I smelled it not long after that, actually.
Yep.
And I thought of him.
Can't
I'm
help
like, you know
but
what,
think of
wanna
him
try
when I see
one.
that because it's the last time we
Totally.
did a video together.
It's so crazy, man. Yeah. Okay, let
Maybe
me
going
the
2
rest
months
I
later,
have
yeah.
here. That's just wild. You
Crazy,
just never
man.
freaking know. Next, all the rest I have left are private blend. This one is discontinued. I don't wear it a ton, but I do really enjoy it. And Grace has actually started getting into it herself. Shanghai Lily. And this is it's a heady white floral with a ton of spice and woods. It's pretty dang spicy, almost nose tickling. But it is floral. So there's this posh feel to it. Very classy for a floral scent. It smells very confident. Not every guy may dig this. It might be a little too floral.
Is it kind of a chic profile?
Yes,
overall?
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure. I actually need
sounds
to
like
wear it
something
more
I need to
before it
try.
gets too hot. Yeah, this is evening wear. This is, maybe no more than 4 sprays because too much it can smell a little old lady-ish if you're not careful. But I think it's lovely. Very, very posh, as I said. Let's go with a classic. Why not? Oud Wood. I'm not really going to describe it. If you haven't smelled this by now, do yourself a favor, get you a decant.
Yeah,
there's a reason why,
it's a must-try profile.
It is. This is one of the original from the private blend that launched in 2007, and there's a reason why it stood the test, whereas many of the others.
It's got to be his bestseller ever. It's
got to be. Yeah. I mean, to this day, it's still being pushed in the stores. It's still in videos. It's incredible. Please try it if you haven't. Let's move on to this discontinued beauty, which needs to come back. Plum Japonais. Oh my gosh.
Every time I hear somebody talk about that, they say it needs to come back.
It needs to come back. It's a shame that nobody was really taken to it, but it's funny. I get kind of a similar DNA out of these two. So the similar spicy woodiness that I was talking about with Shanghai is kind of what makes up the base of this one, except you have a juicy dark plum on top instead of florals. And it's so rich. It's pretty dark. It is a little situational. Don't reach for it a ton, but it's super elegant and more, again, nighttime wear, a little bit more dressed up. Maybe fall and winter. I wouldn't heat. Not with this one. Could get a little sickly, perhaps, but it is not too sweet. I'd say it's actually more woody than it is plum. Okay. Summer staple. I don't have Neroli Portofino. That might be one people would expect to see. I have never been truly moved by that line, but I do have Mandarino di Amalfi Aqua. Man, that's
part of the haul that's coming at the end of the month that I was talking about.
This stuff is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's fresh and juicy Mandarin orange. A lot of Neroli in here, or maybe orange blossom, or maybe both. There is a soapy.
I think it's orange blossom. Like if you click most prominent, I think that's like the number one voted is the orange blossom.
Yes. And so there's a bit of that heady kind of orangey freshness that you can get from orange blossom, but mostly citrus. But there's a lot going on. There's some herbs. There's like mint. There's tarragon, and there's also even apparently some like civet, which I don't really get. There's amber.
I was surprised.
There's a lot going on.
30 some odd notes in the breakdown.
There's a lot going on, but ultimately it does come off a little aquatic without smelling oceanic. It doesn't smell like sea salt. It's more fruity floral with woods than it is like, watery, like salt water kind of thing. But
a lot of the fragrances I'm getting are those aqua flankers, Costa Azura, Eau de Bohème. I'm getting that one. Like I'm getting a lot of the fresh ones.
It's vacation vibes.
Yeah,
vacation
I'm moving.
vibes.
I'm moving to the south again. I'm getting freshies again.
Exactly. You need that. You need those for the heat.
Yeah.
Even if you may, this stuff really threw me for a loop. And you have a decant. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, this is deceptively one of the strongest fragrances I have in the collection, in the private blend. This stuff is so powerful for me. I smell it even when the bottle's capped like this. I can smell it. This is a lot of incense. This is Palo Santo wood. It's a smoky smooth dry wood with a lot of spices, a little bit of an ambery resinous feel that makes it a little sweet. It's so classy, but it's pretty dang smoky. If you don't like smoke, you may not dig it, but I think it's super authentic smelling. It smells very natural. And my final one is one of my favorites from the brand right now. It's Fougère d'Argent. Man, this stuff is killing it as far as fougères go. This is killing it. There's something sexy about this. It is a little simplistic as far as fougères go. It's definitely smells like one, but there is this kind of rough, sweet, spicy woodiness. I think Akigala wood adds this like rough nature to it.
Yeah.
That it's still fresh and clean, but it's darker. And I've included it in a list of aphrodisiacs. I don't know what it is. This one sets Grace off. She loves this.
Uh-oh.
And I love it too. I wear it day or night.
It's one of the most worn.
Honestly. Well, strangely enough, it is not one of the most worn because it is the newest to my collection. So I have worn it a handful of times, but I have a few that I've worn a little bit more. Beau de Jour, which I got from a good friend of mine when it came out. This is probably third place. Second place is actually, where is it at? Tobacco Oud. This one has been a pretty big staple for fall and winter for me. And first place, which I was actually surprised about. I think I wore this a lot more way back when, and then took a break from it.
Aqua?
Oud Wood.
Okay.
It's kind of boring, but yeah, I've worn that one a lot, and I dig it.
I wouldn't say that's boring. I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, just in terms of like when people talk about Tom Ford fragrances, that's one you're going to find everywhere for sure. But it's fine.
That and Tuscan leather.
Yeah, exactly. So that does it, man. Wow.
We covered 84 fragrances in 2 hours and 21 minutes. That's the total, by the way, gentlemen. He had 35. I had 40.
Yes. So if you guys, another way to categorize this video, if you guys want to see top 84 fragrances,
top 84 designer fragrances,
we did it. Okay, it's here. Nobody can say we didn't do it. Maybe I'll change the title to reflect that.
Yeah.
I probably won't, because no one's going to click on that video knowing it's 89, 84.
Well, they're going to see that it's over 2 hours.
Yeah, so maybe I need
there's all of this covered in there.
Maybe I should.
Might as well.
Yeah, I might as well. Just
because trust me, I know when I look at a video, I look at how long the video is.
Yeah. So I don't know how you feel, man, but I would love to do this again sometime.
I'm always up for doing something with it. You know that. I'm open for any topic. We can do something nice and laid back like this. We can cause controversy and walk in a fire. I'm down for whatever.
For sure.
Man, you know.
Yeah, this was a ton of fun. So guys, those of you who stuck around, still 140 of you here, which I'm honestly blown away by. Appreciate you guys hanging out for this crazy journey. This was like me and Ross's reviewing experience just put on display to review this many fragrances in a video, like kind of run through quickly. It's a lot.
Synopsis on all 84.
Exactly.
84.
Which is insane when you think about it. Good Lord.
2 hours and 20 minutes is like a Robe's top 30.
It is, man. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out.
Thank you all.
We're going to let you go. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and we will see you
One thing before you click it off. If you guys want to see us do this with niche, comment after the video in the comment section.
Let us know.
Because I think that would be great to do down the line, to do this
Let
with
us
niche.
know. Yes, we're ready. We're ready for that.
I could do it right now if y'all want to hang out for another 2.5 hours.
We might be here for that.
Yeah, right.
All right, everybody. Y'all take care.
Thank you all so much.
See you in the next one.